Come to Sam Ash for hundreds of exclusive holiday deals on music and sound gear from the most iconic brands. Save big on professional and starter guitars, drums, digital pianos, horns, violins, DJ, and electronic production equipment. Supercharge your home studio with deals on podcasting, streaming, and AV equipment like speakers, microphones, headphones, and acoustic treatment. Plus, with 36 months no-interest financing on thousands of items, you can get the gear of your dreams right now. From our incredible selection and service to our lowest price guarantee for over 95 years, real musicians know you only go to Sam Ash.
At Life's a Beach Realty, we're all about life on the beach. Stunning Panama City Beach and one of the most beautiful properties on the Gulf Coast, Shores of Panama. Radiant, elegant, and spectacular. Steps away from white sugar sand, every room overlooks the turquoise of the Gulf of Mexico. Come in for your tour today. Life's a Beach Realty is your gateway to Shores of Panama, the shores, and a whole lot more.
Tom Brady, welcome to Tampa. Go Bucs!
Realizing my potential has been what my career has been all about. Things that I've dreamed about have actually come true.
And the Patriots have won Super Bowl 36. Unbelievable.
Things have happened in my life as I kind of hoped they would. You know, how I just kept kind of fighting and clawing to continue to power forward. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you keep trying to make progress. So when I look at over 20 years, I look how far I've come. But there's not one step that I took where I realized, look how far I've come. But those series of steps that I put together, I go, wow, that's quite a journey.
You're now in the Sports Web, a sports talk show for the hardcore fan. Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition of the evolution of Sports Talk Television here live nightly on Bucs Report. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. And as we always say here on the web, bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense. On tonight's show, we'll have Eric Wilson of 1070 a.m. on 11 a.m.s on Saturday mornings. So Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. on 1070 a.m. The Zone will have Eric Wilson of the Sports Arena on about a couple minutes now. We'll have Al Keck, 40 years of sports broadcasting experience, Tampa Bay sports broadcasting legend, WTSP Channel 10, WFTS Channel 28. And then at 10:30, we will have Brent Allen of the Pewtercast. And of course, your phone calls, new phone number. This is my personal line, so don't abuse it. But the reason why we did this, in case you didn't catch it, with using Skype, the guests were not able to hear the callers. So now basically we found a way to adjust that, where not only the callers are going to be able to hear the guests, but the guests are going to be able to hear the callers. So we'll give you that true interactive experience. We call this the evolution. It's not a podcast. It's a TV show. It's a radio show. It's both. It's the evolution of sports talk television. Join the 65,000 following we have here on Facebook. Of course, not only on Facebook tonight, but also on YouTube and Twitter Live. So without further ado, let's get him on. Eric Wilson of the Sports Arena on the Zone, 1070 a.m. Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Welcome to the evolution of sports talk television. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, Peter. Thank you for having me back on, man. I really appreciate it. Hope you and the family are doing well. I hope, what's his name? Hurricane Citrabalo or whatever his name is hasn't disrupted the evolution of sports entertainment with the sports web here tonight.
No, definitely not. Tropical storm Cristobal went north. Thank God for that. But it is hurricane season. It's just the beginning. So hopefully we don't have any more named storms. But just knowing Florida and the way 2020 has been, most likely we will.
I'm sure.
Speaking of 2020 and one of the biggest stories out there, I got to ask you real quick, are you buying into the hype of Tom Brady? Because you hear Bruce Arians, you hear teammates, Mike Evans saying he's a franchise changer, and Bruce Arians last week basically saying in so many words he's going to command the locker room, and when he basically asks you something to do, the teammates are doing it. The reason why I ask is because it seems like there's a lot of hype surrounding it, and this has to be probably the biggest story in Tampa Bay Buccaneer history, in your opinion, right?
I couldn't agree with you more, Peter. When you look at a guy like Tom Brady, I mean, listen, this is a guy, and we all know the history. 6th round pick, 199 from Michigan. He was a 4th-string quarterback who there wasn't even a spot for him, but they made a spot for him on the Patriots. 20 years, 2 full decades playing under Bill Belichick in one team, 6 championships, and now he's here in Tampa. You don't have a resume like Tom Brady, and that does not come with the leadership that he has earned and that has been kind of just bestowed upon him. A lot of times when one guy leaves, you pass the torch to somebody else. In this case, the torch left New England and came down to the 8-1-3, and you have all these guys who realize that Tom Brady is a winner. He's a champion. And more importantly, all that, he is a guy who is never going to ask you to do something that he won't do. So, yes, to answer your question, I know that was a long walk off a short pier, but I am fully, I'm aware of it. I see it. And it's just the feeling you get right now if you happen to be around Ray J or happen to be around that organization. The Bucs are really on a different level. And that has to start with Bruce Arians, and it has to funnel down through Byron Leftwich and, more importantly, to Tom Brady.
I've asked a lot of people this week on the sports web because Shaq Barrett was making these comments about a week or two ago on ESPN. He basically said in so many words, Jameis Winston makes this team a playoff contender, but getting Tom Brady makes us an over-the-edge Super Bowl contender. Do you feel that way?
Well, my only caveat to not agreeing with Shaq Barrett is the fact that there is a guy in the New Orleans Saints and Drew Brees who has led this team to multiple playoff victories and, trying to get into the Super Bowl, with the exception of there being a few blown calls and a few unfortunate hiccups, if you will. The Saints are still a powerhouse team. You have Kamara. They brought in Emmanuel Sanders. You've got Michael Thomas. Now on the defensive side of the ball, you've got Cameron Jordan. They bring Malcolm Jenkins back from Philadelphia and bring him back to New Orleans. So Sean Payton is putting this team on course to give the Bucs a true threat just in the division alone. I mean, first off, week one, the game of the week is New Orleans, Tampa Bay on the road facing the New Orleans Saints. I mean, if you're a football guy, you're like, everybody's going to center themselves around the TV or drive to New Orleans or do whatever they got to do because this is going to be the big game. 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, game of the week. This is what we want. I will say this. Whichever team comes out of that game victorious is going to have an edge for the entire rest of the season. The Bucs schedule, and I've looked at it from top to bottom, I feel bad because there's not a bye week until week 11. And then in week 10, you have to face a Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Thank God you're in Raymond James. You're not at Arrowhead. But even still, you done played 10 weeks before you even get your bye week. Now, if this team is healthy, which we're all hoping that the Bucs do what they need to do to stay healthy throughout the entire course of this season, I do early bird prediction here. I give them a 12-4 record. But again, I will say what you have to go up against week 1 is going to be the real test. A lot of teams don't really see what they're capable of maybe until weeks 2, 3, 4. No. We get it week 1. 2 guys, who are basically, I think, powerhouses, not just in the NFC South, but the entire NFL. 2 guys who are, like I said before, Hall of Famers. But more importantly than that, Peter, it's going to be a race every week of who is the leading touchdown quarterback guy. I mean, because, Breeze has it one week, Brady's could have it another, and then it's going to continually go back and forth. So this is built for excitement. To everybody in the Tampa Bay area and everybody who watches the sports web, I'm telling you right now, if you are not excited for what is getting ready to happen this season, then you are not a football fan. And I'll be the first one to say it, because everything, and I have said this from my show to everybody that I've talked to, everything is falling into place for Tampa Bay this year to make history.
And we're on with Eric Wilson of the Sports Arena, 1070 a.m. Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Is there any way they can listen to you online? Because I want to make sure you promote yourself. Go ahead and promote the Sports Arena, and then we'll get back to this.
Yeah, man, your man Eric Wilson, Sports Arena, 1070 The Zone, WKII, every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's 1070thezone.iheart.com. It's a live 30-minute show. When football season kicks back into high gear, we'll go back to an hour. Right now, with sports being what it is, I didn't want to just drown people out with stuff. So I was like, you know what? Let me give them a quick 30 minutes, get in, get out, commercial breaks, 22 minutes, be done. But again, your man Eric Wilson, Sports Arena, 1070 The Zone, WKII, 1070thezone.iheart.com. You can also follow me, like I said, Facebook and all my social media.
So with that being said, that first game matchup on September 13th between the Saints and the Bucs, do you think there is an opportunity for this offense to kind of start off slow? Not because Brady is just learning this offense, but also the stuff off the field with COVID-19. Do you think this offense could start out slow? And then you look at the schedule and you're talking about it with the later on bye week. I feel like this schedule does favor them, even though they have 5 primetime games. You're not going to really face a quarterback that's of any substance besides Breeze that first week until October 18th, which is Aaron Rodgers, if you look, which is kind of a difference last year. And then on top of it, the schedule last year was so bad because they started out, I believe, their first 7 weeks on the road, and that included, trips to London and this and that, all the way out to Seattle. So this is definitely a better schedule for them.
No, it definitely is, Peter. And a question that I just had, and was one that I was just a little concerned about, was, for so many years, we had seen the Bucs have 1 o'clock games, 4 o'clock games, maybe the occasional Monday night football game. You said it yourself. You have 5 primetime games.
Yeah.
Which means the lights are on, it's bright, and the world is focused on you. I just want to make sure that from a mental and emotional standpoint, the rest of the Buccaneer squad, be it Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, guys who have never been thrusted into this type of limelight, are they mentally and emotionally prepared for this? Because the world is going to be watching. The world is going to be watching from week 1 because of Brady. However, when you have the competition and the level that is, everybody's gunning to take out the GOAT. Everybody wants to show that Brady is not Brady without Belichick. And so there's going to be that talk. Now, Brady is going to go out there and do what he does, and we know this. Guys like, and he does. He has a familiar face in Rob Gronkowski. But all that means is Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard are going to be more open and more, more, what's the word I'm looking for? Excuse me. More serviceable, thank you, when it comes to red zone and being able to draw that single coverage. Mike Evans is going to be Mike Evans. We know this. Chris Godwin, up and coming number 2. We know what he's going to do. But it's going to come down to this team really executing. And we're even seeing that now, even with COVID-19 going on. Brady is out there practicing with his new teammates. He's getting familiar with his center. He's getting familiar with his wide receivers. He's got the virtual playbook. So, his nose is in there studying and learning and grinding and doing what he needs to be done. This is why he's a champion. So now the question I think we should be focused on is the defense going to be ready? Because I feel like right now that is where I am going to be looking and kind of focusing my attention. Because I still say at the end of the day, if you have less than 2 minutes in the game, no timeouts, and you got to drive 80 yards to score the game-winning touchdown, who do you want as your quarterback? The answer? Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, definitely.
You got it.
And you mentioned the defense and what they did last year, the last 8 games of the year. Totally different unit from the first part. And I think it came down to a couple things. JPP coming back, of course, playing those games, getting 8.5 sacks in those 10 games that he came back, really solidified that defensive line, took the pressure off of Shaq Barrett, took the pressure off of everybody. And then on top of it, getting rid of a player who's not giving much effort in Vernon Hargreaves to give those other young kids the opportunity for more playing time. Is this the most underrated aspect of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020, this defense?
I think so. I think really that's going to be something that's going to be of a sleeper, if you will, because like you said, last season, 8 games, Todd Bowles has done a phenomenal job. May not have been the greatest head coach in the world, but, as a defensive guy, he's got that mental prowess to be able to get defenses where he needs them to be. So again, it's those little pieces, it's those little nuances, those little X factors that are going to make this team so successful. Peter, I have still been on the fence when it comes to, and I'm sorry to say this, but the run game, I know you really don't, it's hard because Brady loves to pass the ball, but you got to have a little bit of strength behind Brady to be able to tote that rock even 3-4 yards. Between Ronald Jones, Keyshawn Vaughn, I'm looking at these 4 running backs right now, and I just have to ask myself, are they going to go the distance? I know with Brady, they're going to step up their game, but the defense for me is a question mark. I won't say a question mark. Let me take that back. It's not a question mark. It's a defense that, like you said, is underrated. My question mark, yes, is in fact the run game, because we don't have a big name. The Bucs do not have a big name, and I think that's what it is. So here's what I am hoping. My hope is that Brady will utilize these running backs in a scat back kind of thing where, he dinks and dunks and tosses it out to get these young men the opportunity for holes to open. Because we know the offensive line, they got one job: protect Tom Brady at all costs. I don't care how you do it, protect him. Whether it be Cam Jordan coming off one side, whether it be some other defensive edge rushers coming off, it does not matter. Y'all job is to protect Tom Brady. That's it. Don't let him take a hit. Run game has got to be there at least 25-30% of the time. It's got to. You just have to have it. That's another place where I'm just like, if y'all had a solid running back, if the Bucs had a solid running back, there would be no reason to have a season. I'll be the first one to say it, and I'm a guy from Philly. Listen, I bleed green all day, but you cannot ignore this. You can't. Everything falling into place for Tampa. Having Brady, having Gronk, having Arian, having Bowles, Shaq Barrett. The list goes on and on and on. And still, what boggles my mind is there are people who seem to feel like it's not going to happen. I'm like, how can you not see this?
Right. It's all together. Everything is coming together. Everything that the Bucs could have did in the offseason correctly, they did. And it kind of goes back to Devontae Freeman. He was being talked about. Supposedly the Bucs contacted him, and then that rumor was kind of put to rest. And then Coach Arians was asked in his Zoom meeting last week, why isn't Devontae Freeman on a team, or why isn't he signed with the Bucs? Are the Bucs interested in him? And he basically goes out and says, well, he wants too much money. And the report was that Freeman was turning down $4 million from Seattle. So do you think eventually the Bucs could give him less money? Will they be able to free it? Because to me, they don't have it, but will he take less money to play with Brady? Or do you think the Bucs are happy with the Ronald Jones, who had 724 rushing yards last year and limited carries? Because I feel like you got to give this kid more volume. And then on top of it, drafting a Keyshawn Vaughn in the 3rd round. Eric, you don't draft a running back in the 3rd round to, have him as a backup. I feel like the Bucs are kind of happy with what they have. What do you feel?
The running back position for me is it's kind of one near and dear to my heart because I've seen a lot of great running backs, as I'm sure you have as well, Peter, and all your fans here on the Sports Web have. You know, we go back to the days growing up in the 80s and 90s and even the early 2000s. We were blessed to have great running backs. And when I say great running backs, we had thoroughbreds in running backs. You fast forward to 2000 and the wide receiver position kind of took over. Everybody wanted to see that 40, 50-yard pass caught by a guy. You know, you've got your Chris Carters, your Randy Mosses, you know, you got your prime times, you got them all. So the running back position has kind of it's kind of taken a step back, if you will. Now we're starting to see it transcend again with the addition of a Saquon Barkley. I can go as far as a Nick Chubb. Adrian Peterson, the fact that he is still playing at the level that he's playing at, being in his mid 30s is, you know, he's a freak of nature. Got it. So for Devontae Freeman, there are two ways I can look at this. My first way would be, okay, do I want to play where I'm going to get the most money and basically, you know, hey, I got to take care of me. I got to take care of my family. I got to do what's best for my situation, but I still like to be on a contending team. Or, like you said, do I take less money, play alongside the GOAT, and have an opportunity to be a part of history? I think that's the question only Freeman himself can answer. Now, if I'm Freeman, being in the league as I have been, playing with the Atlanta Falcons and you know, knowing this team, knowing the NFC South as I do, I might consider to go play with Tom Brady for a year because you know what? I know he's the GOAT. I know he can still gunsling it. And I also know that if you're going to give me the volume, I might be able to get you 1,000 yards this season. Now, Ronald Jones, Keyshawn Vaughn, absolutely right. These two young men, I think, are going to be better. Bruce Arians knows how to utilize his players at their strengths, and we've seen it. So I expect more of that. And I'll be the first to admit, if after weeks 3 and 4, there is a resurgence at the running back position with these two young men, I'll be the first one to come out here in the Sports Web and say, you know what, Peter, I'm going to shut up. I was wrong. Let them boys do their job because look at where they're at.
We got Eric Wilson of the Sports Arena, 1070 a.m. on Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock. He only goes 30 minutes. I don't know how you go 30 minutes. I can't go 30 minutes. I remember the days of going to radio for 1 hour. I can't imagine because you really don't get an hour of radio. It's 53 minutes with all the commercials and everything like that. So, you know, for me, 30 minutes, good for you. And, of course, it's a short day. You enjoy that Saturday. You're smart. I wasn't. I used to go 3 hours. According to Cynthia Freeland of ESPN, and she does her fantasy football, she actually ranks Keyshawn Vaughn as the third running back out of 7 rookie running backs. She says another back with enough upside to potentially lead this list by season's end. Vaughn is currently my number 28th overall running back in terms of PPR fantasy projections over the past 2 seasons. Vaughn led the SEC with an average of 4.4 yards for a rush after contact. Vaughn's receiving skills and Tom Brady's short passing game, 155 targets, Eric, to backs in 2019, second among NFL quarterbacks, according to PFF. Should Vaughn be able to eat enough of those snaps from Ronald Jones, he could be a surprise starter in this running back class. So she's pretty high on him. You know, consecutive 1,000-yard seasons at Vanderbilt. You're talking about, look, it is Vanderbilt, but you're running behind a god-awful offensive line. If you compare his statistics to Cam Akers, you know, the thing is that Akers has the better name, but Vaughn actually has better statistics. And then on top of it, he's playing at top competition, which is the SEC.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, I mean, like I said, Peter, I may be wrong on this, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the resurgence of the running back position for me has not fully blossomed like I hoped it would. I mean, again, I go back to some of the names that I mentioned before, Saquon Barkley. I mean, even Nick Chubb looks great coming out. You know, I look at some of these running backs, and even in this class, there were a lot of running backs. A name that I think a lot of people may sleep on, even though he wasn't drafted till later rounds, is Eno Benjamin. I think he's a guy who may shock a lot of people. But dealing with Keyshawn Vaughn, again, if Bruce Arians, which I know he does, and Byron Leftwich and the rest of that offensive coordinating staff, they work it in to where it benefits not only Keyshawn, but also continually makes Brady, which ultimately makes the Bucs look good, they're going to do it. So, I'm excited to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I will be paying, like I said, I'll be paying a lot of close attention to that run game, but I'll be paying more attention to that defense just because I'm a defensive guy. And I hope
You sound like
want the Bucs. I do. I want the Bucs to come away with a victory week 1 because to me, that's going to set the tone.
Yeah.
And Brady, again, being the leader that he is, being the consummate professional that he is, I think the one difference between him being in New England and now being here in Tampa, it just appears, and correct me if I'm wrong, it just appears as though he's more lighthearted. This man he seems like he's having more fun. It seems like he is just getting back to those days when he was at Michigan or back in the days when he was playing backyard football. It just seemed to be, he still has that driven mentality to be a winner, but he's doing it in such a way that we are looking at this and saying something's different. Mm-hmm. Something's different about him. And I think that's going to translate not only in the locker room, but also onto the field this year.
Yeah, and I think it goes down to, playing 20 years in the league, you're under the same head coach, you have the same voice, and we know that there was some controversy between Bill Belichick. He's not the easiest coach to play with. Of course, they'll both say that they enjoyed each other, but at the end of the day, I really think that Brady needed a new start, and it comes down to, and I always said this at the beginning of this whole process, it's like a relationship. The Patriots kind of took him for granted last year. They didn't get him the weapons that he needed. The Bucs absolutely wooed him in the offseason. They gave him everything that he wanted. He has a fresh new voice in Bruce Arians, who's a quarterback whisperer, who worked with Peyton Manning and Carson Palmer and Andrew Luck and quarterbacks in the past, and even Jameis Winston, even with all the turnovers, still a quarterback that threw for over 5,000 yards, over 30 touchdowns. So he's had success with, taking something and getting the most out of that quarterback. And I feel like Brady definitely is going to be revitalized in this Bucs offense. What's your other biggest question? I know you talked about running game. Is it the offensive line? Is it the back end? Or is it something else?
No, those are my two biggest things. I mean, if I had to pick a third thing, and this is me really just kind of nitpicking, it's because they went and got Tristan Wirfs in the first round. Now, listen, our good friend Alex Fleming and I, we saw Tristan Wirfs at the combine. So we know what this young man's capable of. The fact that he, like everybody else on that squad, has such a golden opportunity to make history. As a rookie, he wants to come out and he wants to perform at such a high level. Difference is he's going up against veterans, guys who know this game, guys who understand this game maybe a little bit better than he does. So he's going to make rookie mistakes, and he should not be faulted for that. But I know a lot of people are going to look at that and say, oh, he's a rookie. Why do we have him out here? No, you don't go up and draft this guy to protect the GOAT if you don't have the faith and belief that he is going to be able to do the job of somebody of a veteran level. So Bruce Arians, that whole entire Jason Light, the whole time, they were like, listen, we know what this young man's capable of, which is why we drafted him and we're plugging him in. So and again, this is me nitpicking. I know that whole offensive line understands. Brady's already, I'm sure, sat down with them and we're like, okay, listen, y'all got one job. Don't let me fall on my backside. That's it. I don't care what else y'all do, but I'm standing upright for 16 weeks and beyond. That's what I need y'all to do. I will take care of everything else because I got Godwin, I got Evans, I got my run game. Y'all just make sure I don't fall on my back. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people kind of question about Donovan Smith with the big contract. They kind of worry about him protecting the backside of or the blind side. The backside. Yeah, it is the backside, but the blind side of Tom Brady. How do you feel about Smith at left tackle? Do you believe that he'll be able to raise his game because of Brady and that Brady effect, or do you think he's just an average tackle? Much like a lot of the fans here on the sports web, the web has especially.
I really feel like I think at this point, I think we're nitpicking individual players. And, that's fair enough to say to your web heads because you know what? They support the Bucs more than I do, and they probably know the Bucs better than I do. But at the end of the day, it's going to take all 53 men on both offensive, defensive, and special teams to get the job done. And I think, and I hate to use this mentality, but I mean, it holds true. And rest in peace to my man, Kobe Bryant. They all need to develop that Mamba mentality and make sure that they are the best version of themselves every single Sunday they go out there. If they can do that, then the Bucs are going to be successful. They are. That's again, when we start looking at individuals and looking at their, I just see it as nitpicking because he's not just one man guarding Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You've got the offensive line, and if they can all just stay cohesive, they'll be fine. You know what I'm saying? And then so yeah, I don't between Donovan Smith. I look at Tristan Wirfs, I look at the run game, I look at the defense, and I say to myself, okay, four things are separating this team from being borderline, because they haven't won a championship in almost a decade, well, over a decade and a half.
Right.
Borderline, like that next level talent, almost to the great. I won't call them elite because this will be their second championship ever, but you are in this position to make history, and I think that's the biggest piece that I don't want anybody on the sports web, on the sports arena, you, me, I don't want anybody to miss out on, is the bigger picture. When we start peeling back those layers and start focusing on the little intricacies when it comes to a player and what he does, I save that for all the analytics. I do. I say that for those guys out there who will be able to pinpoint to me, well, this is the reason why this happened and that. Okay, that's great. But let's talk about the entire game and look what happened. If you want to pinpoint to one or two things that may have changed the course of the game, fine, fantastic. There's a show called Turning Point. Go watch that. It doesn't matter. I'd rather watch the sports web, but I digress. I'm looking at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is, at the end of the day, what is going to be the one thing that matters most? And that is going to be that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are, number one, on course to potentially win their division. Number two, they are going to be in the playoffs. And number three, and most importantly, they have an odds-on legitimate shot to be the first team ever to host and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at.
Right. I mean, you have the opportunity to do that. That had to be a selling point. And Brady comes to this team because he believes that not only they're a contender, but they can win a Super Bowl. And the Bucs look like they have all the pieces ready to go. We're on with Eric Wilson of the Sports Arena. Of course, 10:70 a.m. Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. The Zone. Man, it gives me good memories when I used to do radio. So, but once again, I don't know how you do 30 minutes. You're going to have to up that up. We're going to have to get you up to an hour. With all that being said, with the Bucs, who do you think is the most? Who's the breakout star for the offense and the defense in 2020, Eric?
Oh, good question. Good question. Well, as a lot of people were not sold on Brashard Perryman, which is why now he is with the New York Jets. And I will remind people that when both Evans and Godwin were down, he was the guy who was serviceable and he was the guy who stepped up. But you know what? He's moved on to greener pastures. So you know what? Have fun with that. I have to say my breakout guy this year has got to be either Braid or OJ Howard, for the simple fact that we know defenses are going to double coverage Gronk, which is going to leave one of these two gentlemen open. We know Godwin's going to get 1,200 yards. We know Evans is probably going to get 1,400 to 1,500 yards this year. We know that going in. And we know what Brady is capable of under center. But with the tight end position, I have to give it to one of those gentlemen. If I have to pick one off top, I'm going to go with Braid. I think Cameron Braid's going to be your breakout player of the year for the Bucs offensively. Defensively, Shaq Barrett talks a big game, so we better be able to back it up. JPP coming back adds a little bit more of a leadership, but, and I'm looking at the depth chart here. The one guy who I would like to see, and I had the opportunity to meet him at Tropicana Field a few years ago, Devin White. That's
my pick right there. And that to me, once he was able, Eric, to get healthy and get comfortable, and because you're coming into that second year of Todd Bowles' defense, and it's like the game kind of slows down. I don't know. I've never played the game before. I just assume that when you're in that second year, that first year, everything is running so fast. You're starting linebacker, your middle linebacker, and a new defense, which is very complicated. But you look at some of the plays he made last year, combining that with pairing him with Levante David, that could be the best linebacking core in the NFL. Shaq Barrett, JPP, and then you have Levante David and Devin White. So that definitely would be mine. I think you got the right position, but the wrong player. To me, it's O.J. Howard, and I'll tell you why. Because first, the Bucs picked up that fifth-year option. I don't think you're necessarily going to see Gronk that much. He's going to most likely be brought in slowly. He knows the offense. He knows Brady, but they want to preserve him because they want to make sure that you get a full year out of him. And because that tight end room has a lot of potential. Cameron Brate a couple years ago led them with touchdown catches. And then you have O.J. Howard, who's a first-round pick, who's never really been able to live up to that potential. He has that opportunity to really step up. And playing with Brady, I think that's what he's going to do. So I say O.J. Howard and Devin White, but I think you're right on that. So we're talking about Drew Brees and his comments. Do you think this will linger into the regular season and could have serious effects in that locker room?
You know what? I think when it comes to this situation, no pun intended, I think this team needs to huddle up. Okay. I think Brees, Kamara, Michael Thomas, Malcolm Jenkins, I think the four of them need to get into a room and just kind of, you know what? We need to move past this as a team. Granted, the comments made by Drew Brees, I think, were the timing was off. And even though, again, I go back to our friend Alex Fleming, who stood in support of it, I was like, it was a head scratcher for me. Listen, the night that you guys were talking about this, I was one of the guys blowing up your phone saying, Alex, what are you doing? What are you talking about? But Alex and I talked about it after the fact, and I was like, okay, I see your point. We can agree to disagree. But this opportunity right now for Drew Brees is to get with his teammates, more importantly than anybody else, and say, okay, you know what? We need to understand each other. We cannot allow this to funnel into our locker rooms, to funnel into, our playing time together, because we are on a mission. Drew's time as a starting NFL quarterback is on the decline. He's a great quarterback, future Hall of Famer. I get all that, but Father Time is undefeated. That being said, you have got to figure out how to come to terms with all of this and be able to move forward and be successful. Because if you don't, as we've been talking about here on the Sports Web all night so far, it is the Bucs division. And if you give Brady any more ammunition that this man doesn't already need, let the New Orleans Saints not be at 100% because of this. Brady will capitalize on it. The Bucs will capitalize on it. And because we know that we're going to a 7-team playoffs this year, the number 2 spot gets what? You get to face a number 7 seed. You could be a one and done if you do not have the best record in the NFC. So if I'm Drew Brees, I'm sitting down with those in the organization that I need to talk to. We are coming to terms with this. We are going to hug it out. We are going to figure this out, because just like the Bucs, the Saints are on a mission to win. They have been screwed over way too many times. And I know Sean Payton is like, this will not happen to us a third time. We will do whatever we have to do to make sure that we are the best team, not only in our division, because now we have to see Brady twice a year, but also in the entire NFC. Because I'll tell you what, that number 1 seed right now, Peter, is probably the most precious spot on both the NFC and AFC side of the NFL. There is no more, oh, well, as long as we get the number 2 seed, we get a bye week. No. Doesn't happen like that. You now have to face somebody. So if I'm him, once again, I'm getting with my team, whoever I need to talk to. Let's have an understanding. Let's put this behind us, and let's move forward.
Good stuff. Thanks a lot to Eric Wilson of the Sports Arena. Of course, catch him on 1070 a.m. on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. on the Zone. Go ahead, once again, promote yourself. Where can they follow you on Twitter? And, of course, listen to your radio show. What's all the website information? Go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me on the evolution of sports entertainment, the Sports Web, Peter. I really appreciate it. Absolutely. I hope you guys do hit 70,000 fans by the end of this year. I'd love to see that happen for y'all. Your man, Eric Wilson, 1070 The Zone, WKII, the Sports Arena, live every Saturday at 11 a.m. Check me out, 1070thezone.iheart.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. It's at ECWilson76. You can follow me on Facebook as well there, the Sports Arena, at the Sports Arena FL. Great. I'm going to actually get off of here, and I'm going to listen to the rest of the show, man. So thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, thanks a lot. Eric Wilson of the Sports Arena on 1070 AM, The Zone on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Don't be a stranger here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television, all right?
I definitely won't, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. There you go. So Mr. Eric Wilson was on with us here. We'll go out real quick to the Tampa Bay sports broadcast legend, Mr. Al Keck. Welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Peter. How are you?
Doing great. I tell you what, let's go out to the webheads really quick, read what they have to say, and then we'll see if they have any questions. But we got a new phone line tonight. And Al, here's the great thing. There's going to be interaction. They don't have to necessarily call in and hang up to listen to your answer. You're going to be able to hear both of each other. We fixed that. So let's go out to the webheads here. Fred with his popcorn ready, I guess. I don't know what that is. Is that ice cream? You're a popcorn ready? I don't know. Crew Life France, band Crew Life Tampa is in the house. Johnny Dean, anyone in here with me? I think they are. Breeze is good, but Brady has been in the Super Bowl every other year in his career. Let me go ahead and get rid of that right there. There we go. Tampa Bay sports broadcasting legend. I agree the stars seem to be aligning for the Bucs. I know I've asked you this before, but doesn't it seem like the stars are kind of aligning here, Mr. Al Keck, for the Bucs?
I just want September to get here.
I do too.
There's so many things that can happen that, I don't want to be Mr. Negative or anything like that. I just want to make sure there's a football season. And not that I'm trying to beat the drum for the Glazers in any way, but when you think about how everything came together for them in the fact that they now basically have a sold out season. And all of, and they're becoming so relevant and so talked about and all of this, you don't want to see that go away. Obviously they'll stay relevant, but I want there to be fans in the stands to really be able to take advantage of this and watch this. It'll, I think it could be, it should be a fascinating year for this franchise. And one of the best, at least going in their history. So for a worldwide pandemic to kind of put everything on hold would be a tragedy, because that is the one thing, it would be a natural disaster, about the only thing that could happen to take the Bucs, take this away from the Bucs from being one of their, most talked about seasons ever.
Yeah, and they've already announced the date. July 21st is when they're going to start training camp. You start to have some of the coaches come back in and staff at 50% capacity. We'll get into the memo that was sent out to the NFL Players Association about social distancing. But want to go back out to the webheads here. Johnny Dean with his sunglasses. Hey, Christopher, what's going on? Ben, balance is the key. Vaughn could be the Bucs James White. Bring your passion. Let's go Bucs, says Yash. Tracy Chandler, happy birthday. What's going on? Johnny Dean, do you think this is going to be a bounty on Breeze after his comments he made? Do you think there could be any bounty on him after the comments he made? I know they're highly controversial, and I don't necessarily want to make this, uncomfortable conversation like a lot of sports talk shows have done lately. But just those comments from him, not only his locker room, it could be a possibility for him, but also a possibility of players taking a shot at him, you think?
Well, people are going to take a shot at him because he's Drew Brees.
Right.
So, this is now mid-June. First game is September 13th.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a whole lot of other stories coming up between now and then. And that doesn't mean that there won't be some defenses out there that would love to, make a point and go after Drew Brees, but it would be any other quarterback that they're facing as well. I'm sure there will be some people out there that would, want to take a shot at him because of the comments. And, we'll just, see what happens from there. I'm sure no one knows that more than the Saints, and no one knows that more than Drew Brees. But once that first pass is thrown, a lot of that stuff goes out the window.
I think you're right, too. I think there's a long time. If this were right before the season, that would be different. But I think everything is going to kind of cool down and simmer down. There's still going to be, I believe, kneeling, and that's fine. They have the right to do that. I still think it's going to be a story. But if he did it before the season, I think it would be much bigger story. My main
Hey, Peter, one thing I want to say about this.
Yes.
Because, and again, I'm not going to comment on what Breeze said. Okay. What I want to bring attention to is that so much of the rhetoric that's been put out there is that Breeze, in this very tragic, very difficult, and heinous time for Black people, and this time has obviously been going for generations, but we don't want to take anything away from that. But the criticism, one of the biggest criticisms that Breeze had to field was the fact that he took it to kneeling during the national anthem. And I find that unfair in that if you've seen the entire interview, you know that wasn't the case. And so much of this comment and rhetoric and people being upset are just coming from snippets, are just coming from that soundbite. But if you watch the entire interview, Breeze hasn't gone, in the answer before this answer that everyone sees. Breeze can only be described as being certainly not tone deaf, but understanding of the situation and willing to do whatever he could do to help improve things, and believing that we all need to come together to try to improve and try to make things turn around in this particular situation. Never once did he mention the kneeling or the national anthem, and that that situation and what's been going on for generations in Black Lives Matter, there was no connection there. The hosts asked him specifically about his thoughts on kneeling and what that does to a football team. And now what Drew answered from there is on him. Okay. But where I'm uncomfortable is that Drew Brees is taking an incredible amount of heat, not just for his answer, but the fact that he connected the two. And I find that extremely unfair. And Drew Brees interviewed him several times. He is, like you would imagine him to be, high class in every way. Now, I'm not his teammate. I'm also not a Black American. So I'm not sure how all that stuff plays out. But if you're going to criticize Brees, please do it for his comments. Do not do it for bringing those two things, the anthem and the horrible stuff that's going on together, because Drew Brees did not do that. He was asked a question. And to take that one step further is that when you are being interviewed, and when we do an interview, we ask people for their opinions. That's what an interview is all about, because that leads to discussion. And what's become the norm over the last few years is that we all recognize the rights of people to have an opinion. But if that opinion doesn't go within the bounds of the mainstream, then that person that gives that opinion can be ruined. Now, I'm not making excuses for what Drew Brees said. Drew Brees said what Drew Brees said, and his teammates came after him. But there's going to have to come a time during all of this stuff that we're going through is that we are going to have to listen to differing opinions in order for things to go forward. Now, the first thing people with Black Lives Matter are going to say is that, but we've been yelling this from the top of our lungs for generations. And absolutely right. They're absolutely right there. But in order for this to go forward, I just think we need to listen because there's got to be dialogue. And if a person gives an opinion, whatever that opinion is, he can't be ruined for it if it goes against the mainstream. Now, I know that there are things that right now, there are certain hot buttons that we just can't come back from. Mm-hmm. I understand that. And this, what I'm talking about is probably going to be down the road. But in our media business, we want to get the opinions of people that have a chance to make a difference. Celebrities, sports stars. Mm-hmm. We want to get their ideas on things, and we ask them all the time, well, what's going to happen if this continues? Is what's in it for a celebrity or a sports star other than the most obvious of things? And this thing in Minnesota, excuse me for calling it a thing, this tragedy in Minnesota has brought comments from all corners. And when you look at, it comes from celebrities and sports figures, many of them are just pretty obvious, stating the obvious. But as far as getting real dialogue going and trying to move this forward, people are just going to stop talking, celebrities and sports stars, because what's in it for them? If you give a comment this long and 3 words during that phrase, you're going to cut those apart. And it's going to become something that really hurts their brand, and it hurts what they're trying to do because they're giving their opinion when they're asked to give their opinion. Now, if Drew Brees had just said out of the blue during this interview and said, oh, and by the way, I can't ever agree with someone not standing for the flag. That's one thing. Okay. But for him to be asked on this show, what are your thoughts about that? And how is that going to affect the team? And what do you feel about this? That's another. And so while what Drew said, he's on his own, but to criticize him for pulling the two together just isn't fair.
And I think it comes down to timing, and we're on with Tampa Bay sports broadcasting legend, Mr. Al Keck, 40 years of sports broadcasting experience, WTSP Channel 10, WFTS Channel 28. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. I think it comes down to timing of things and the backlash, and that's why. And he even apologized for it. I just wonder if there is going to be.
And he was criticized for apologizing.
Right. I know.
By the president.
Right. Yes.
So.
Right.
That's why I say there's going to come a time when sports figures, celebrities, people we want their opinions on, they're just going to say, I'm not going to comment on that.
Right.
Boom. Now, does dialogue go forward from there? I don't see that happening. But To criticize him for putting the two together just is unfair.
Good stuff, Al. Thanks a lot for that. Absolutely good stuff. My main concern is depth in the O-line. Consider this: Marpet or Jensen go down, then you have the rotation guy take one of those places. They will cause a domino effect because as much as we would like to think otherwise, without either of those on the field, that will cause Smith and company to fill the holes. I think that's what everybody is always worried about with this team, especially with the line giving up 47 sacks last year. Somebody getting a big injury, knock on wood, but every team goes through that. It's just with the Bucs, they don't necessarily always have the depth. I think they have improved that with a Jake Haig who can play multiple positions, but I'm not waiting or willing to bet money that he's going to be able to go in there and do what a Marpet or a Jensen can do. Maybe average to good, but with those players being great at that same level, I'm not sure about that.
Well, what you want is simply depth because people will get hurt, even though for the most part, last season, that Buccaneer offensive line was fairly healthy. But what you don't want to do is build this offensive line, and it looks like they've got the pieces across the board as far as the starting lineup's concerned. And then you have a couple of guys that might be able to fill in.
Yeah. No,
I would have preferred another draft pick on an offensive lineman. We've talked about that.
Oh,
but the Buccaneers certainly have their reasons, and they like their draft, and maybe the guys that they really like just weren't available there, and they didn't think that was worth the value at whatever time they made the pick. But to me, you can't have too many offensive linemen.
No,
and if it means you can plug and play, or it means, guys sit around and watch for the vast majority of the season, and maybe it's next year when they really start to, make their mark. Great. I just think when you've got a quarterback the age of Tom Brady and you've got the weapons on the outside, you have to do whatever you can to make sure that Tom Brady can do what he does best. And that's get the ball to the key people that you want. And you got to do that, obviously, with the best offensive line that you can have.
Good stuff. What's up, Peter? Says Cornell, Johnny Dean. Hey, everyone, can you send our thoughts to Blackie Lawless? He's going into surgery Friday, has suffered enough. Let's put out some good thoughts for him and hope everything works out. Blackie, God bless, here on the Sports Web. Bucs Report family has got you. All right. Johnny Dean is praying. Jimmy says Gronk was brought in to teach the young tight ends how to play and win like a champion. I expect O.J. Howard to finally burst out this year. That's my player that I think could burst out. Who is a breakout player for you offensively and defensively in 2020?
Well, we talked about it just last week. I said O.J. Howard, but I'm not sure O.J. Howard is going to do it at tight end. I think they're going to make him a wide receiver, and I think he'll play both wide receiver and tight end. And I think because of his physical skills, I think he has the ability to do exactly that. Now, as far as defensively is concerned, I think this is a huge year for Devin White. We saw glimpses of what he can do last year in his rookie year. Of course, he was hurt to start the season. Mm-hmm. But I think this year, hopefully, I'm sure the Bucs are hoping the same thing, that we actually see things improving even more for Devin White, because if he improves, so much of that Buccaneer defense improves as well.
I swear to God, I feel like for saying what I said last year, the Bucs shouldn't draft him number 5, because just that second half of the year convinced me. I'm like, we may be looking, and you always hate to throw out comparisons, right? But we do as sports broadcasters. Derek Brooks type of impact. I know, but just the speed and the athleticism and the intelligence and the anticipation, it seems like he has it. You don't know what it is. It's just all there, and you feel like it's only going to get better. And that's why they drafted number 5. And that's why you got to be careful with, and I know draft is a crapshoot, but if a team does their scouting and they're definitely in on it and they feel like he's a number 5 pick, no matter what position he plays, whether it's middle linebacker, they've got to know something more than you. I'm just saying. So,
well, he happened to be that happened to be a position of need going into the draft, and you don't normally take a position of need at number 5, and you don't normally take a middle linebacker at number 5. But when you listen to what the Bucs said on the day of the draft, they said he is so far and away the best linebacker in this draft.
Yeah.
That for us not to take him at number 5 would be a huge mistake. So I think his development would have been faster last year if he didn't get hurt. But the main thing is that he did make that development, and he did come back at a time when this defense really started rolling. Yeah, so much of that credit goes to JPP and the young secondary, but I do believe that Devin White had a lot to do with that, and he was a major component in making all that happen.
Absolutely. All right. Blake Anthony said, "Big Bad Al Keck." Is that your new nickname here? We're just going to call you Big Bad.
If Blake Anthony says it, I'll go by it because I'll go by what Blake says.
All right. Blake Anthony at Sports Talk 49. Definitely check him out. Here on the weekdays, it's either Tuesday or Wednesday. I mean, he goes all around the place. Definitely check here on Bucs Report. He gave his opinion. Why are we even talking about someone who used their right to speak? Jimmy says, first off, society's gotten so weak they can't handle anyone with a different opinion or viewpoint. Drew has every right to feel what he feels and the right to speak on it. Eric Wilson says, well said, Mr. Al Keck. Thank you, says Eric Wilson. Jimmy says he said nothing wrong. He voiced his voice and opinion. He shouldn't have to taken aback his feelings just to appease everyone else. Johnny Dean says everyone seems to be glossing over the fact that after Drew Brees sat down with his teammates, he had a reversal of opinion, even to the point of trying to explain it to Trump. Absolutely, he did. Jimmy says the dude is a million. He works his butt off with both white and blacks. I highly doubt the man is racist. He owes his success to his teammates of all colors. Bingo, says Jimmy. Your tiptoeing, is that what America has come to? I don't think he was.
You think? You think? Everyone is tiptoeing.
Right. I mean,
that's the problem.
Right. It's the cancer culture. I mean, not the cancer, the cancel culture. But honestly, when you're trying to cancel somebody out, that feels like cancer. I mean, you can't say anything anymore or have a differing opinion because somebody will come after you. If you made a movie 10 or 15 years ago that was somewhat funny at the time and it's offensive to somebody, they have to take it off. And I get it. Everybody wants to be inclusive and understanding, but we really have to keep perspective of things and kind of not lose ourselves in the moment. Does that make sense?
No, I understand. I understand. And, my point in saying what I did was, okay, now let's remember why people are getting mad at Drew. If it's about what he said in that soundbite, well, he owns up to it and has apologized for that and has been criticized for apologizing. But he did own up to it.
Right.
Okay. But if you're criticizing him for taking Black Lives Matter, the current heinous stuff that's going on, and kneeling, that's not on Drew, because he's not the one that did that. He was simply responding to a question that he was asked.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not fair. That's not fair. And again, what Drew said is on him, the way he answered that. But to take those 2 leaps, that's not fair.
I agree. Let's see. Blackie Lawless, show the man some love. Absolutely, Blackie. Hang in there, my friend. You're a loyal supporter here. You're a webhead extraordinaire, giving me the nickname, Al, Pewter Blake. I love that. I think that's, I think that's a great nickname and very smart on Blackie. So definitely hang in there, my friend. All right. Johnny Dean says, we're all playing for you, Blackie. Ben Cornett says, I'll just say this. If the events of the last couple of weeks doesn't start waking people up, then unfortunately it'll be more of the same from here on out, and it'll keep being a vicious cycle. All right. So Blackie says, thanks, bro. Jimmy says, I've been saying that like the Ravens do with I've been saying they would do the same with Hayden Hurst. Khalil Davis will be out. William Golston, Blake Anthony says, as long as O.J. Howard doesn't do the behind-the-back tricks with the football, the team should be fine at tight end. Jimmy says Devin White is going to be a beast. He's one of the best ever. You can just tell he's always around the ball. Freaking amazing. Johnny Dean, don't have him blocking linebackers. I can't wait for Rojo to finally get the respect he deserves. I like Rojo. I just think he needs more volume, but there's question marks with every team. And I feel like, look, he had the 100-yard rushing effort. Is he going to learn from it? Is he going to be hindered by the fact of not having those reps in training camp? Is he training? It certainly seems like he's training. He's got a new quarterback, but he's definitely got to get more consistent. And I feel like the Bucs as an organization also have to give him more carries, and having Vaughn in the fold, I think will take the pressure off of him. But I feel like if you give this guy the opportunity, Al, to get some space, and that offensive line can open up those holes, when he gets to that second or the third level, he's special. He really is. There's a reason why the Bucs drafted him a couple of years ago in the second round. The problem is the offensive line hasn't been consistent enough. And then on top of it, his first year is basically a wash because that previous coaching staff couldn't get him to learn that playbook. And then finally, when he gets into an offense and he gets some of those opportunities, you could really see some of those explosive plays last year.
Well, to me, he's had his chances, has not taken the opportunity completely and done something with it. If he had, they wouldn't have taken a running back in the third round. So, this is his year. It's either do it or leave. And, to me, he's had some opportunities, but he's still incredibly inconsistent. And the Bucs sorely needed to get another running back in the draft fairly high so that they could see exactly what they have. Now, Peyton Barber's gone.
Yeah.
So I would think that Rojo will get the opportunity in training camp to show what he can do. So the opportunity's there. Now it's up to, again, now it's up to him to see what he can do.
All right. Johnny Dean says, I've said this for this team. If this is not the best linebacking core in the league now, it has to be that's what he thinks. Ha, says Jimmy J. Hicks. Tonight, my name is Joshua Cole Allen in Tampa. Laugh out loud. And Jimmy says they took a Rob in the draft because they needed a backup. Now, this comes from Mike Girardi of NFL Network. He was talking about Tom Brady basically blowing away his teammates. And I'll ask you this. I was also told by another player, look, he's not waiting. He is aggressive. He's becoming our leader. It's happening right now, even though we're not together on a regular basis as a team and person. This is something I think all Buccaneers are looking forward to when they finally get together on the field. Brady is the Pied Piper for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This isn't to disparage what Jameis Winston did there, but Brady is drawing all kinds of attention from his teammates for the energy that he's bringing, not only in those workouts, but he also is organized, but also he's lighting it up with the Zoom meetings, intelligent questions, personality, engaging his teammates. This is exactly what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers needed. Now, I get it. There's been a lot of hype with Tom Brady, and as there should be. Hearing this right now, should a fan get excited about this? Should they continue to get excited? Or should they be somewhat cautious because of what's going on off the field and because you don't know how he's going to be able to get this first-year offense?
Well, Peter, Tom Brady is considered to be the greatest of all time for a reason.
Yeah.
And I expect nothing less than for him, the second he set foot in Tampa, or the second he said he was coming here, to begin the process right then, right there. He's in his 40s. He doesn't have time to slow walk this. He's got to get this going immediately. There are no OTAs. There are no other workouts. So he's got to do whatever he can to become a very important part of this team. And this team will look to him. And he's played it a whole lot of years. There's very little that he hasn't seen. So this team is looking to Tom Brady for this, and they couldn't have a better quarterback as far as leadership is concerned to get this thing done. And so I just wish that they could do OTAs. I just wish they could do as much of the stuff of him being with his teammates as possible, because it's obvious they're going to be looking to him. This coaching staff is going to be looking to him. Buccaneer front office people are going to be looking, to him. Fans of Tampa Bay are going to be looking to him. And that's why I so want this season to go on without a hitch with fans, so that we can sit back and really enjoy the true experience of having Tom Brady here as the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, so my question is, and it's an open phone line right now. Call my personal phone, like I said, 727-255-0391, 727-255-0391. If you have a question for Al, if you want to comment on this, does this get you excited? Does this pump you up? Are you cautious about hearing all this hype about Tom Brady? Definitely throw it out there. We'll get you on the sports web. And it is true interaction, because like I said, it's not going to be a case where you call in and Al's not going to be able to hear you, or you're not going to be able to hear Al. You guys are both going to hear each other, and you guys can interact here on the Evolution. Join the 65,000 following we have here on Facebook, of course, live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter tonight. And the guy says it's running back. I know what you were talking about. The dude is the ultimate competitor and leader. I hated his talent when he was in New England. So glad he is here to elevate everyone in the organization. And to finish off this article, basically what the writer says, or the TV reporter for NFL Network, he is the clear-cut face of the franchise. When have you ever heard that about any player in Tampa Bay Buccaneer history? I don't remember when, Al. I know you covered this team for a long time, but the clear-cut franchise face of the Bucs.
Well, the Bucs have had faces of the franchise, but it hasn't always worked out well. Vinny Testaverde was the face of this franchise. I think very early in his career, Trent Dilfer might have been the face of this franchise. Here's a guy that, and again, name a quarterback that was playing for the Bucs other than Doug Williams that has really been one of the better quarterbacks in the National Football League. They've had a huge hole at quarterback over the years, forever, since day one, other than Doug Williams. So that's what's so meaningful for this franchise, to not just get a quarterback that can play. This area was so excited when we got, when the Bucs got Brad Johnson, because they thought he was the final piece and he could be the guy that could just direct this offense and, push all the right buttons and go from there. And that turned out to be the case in his first year, under John Gruden. But it didn't go on from there. Now you have the greatest of all time, and you can see the reason why he is the greatest of all time with the way that he's handled coming into Tampa Bay during a very difficult time. And he's not wasting anybody's time. He's going right to work. And I expected nothing less.
Jimmy says, I'm pumped. I can't wait. Let's get this season going. Johnny Dean, I expect Tom Brady to walk on water or jet ski anyway and bring the wrath of the football gods down upon the Bucs opponents. Jimmy Gazeta says Steve Young. I don't think
he never played much here of any consequence.
No.
So you can't compare that.
The Mule, Earl Harris says, hello, go Bucs. Less interceptions. Yay. Jimmy says, Bo Jackson's deal. We could have had a great team. Bo Jackson was never going to be the clear-cut franchise face simply because Hugh Culverhouse screwed up his eligibility at Auburn when he wanted to play baseball, and he did it on purpose. So that was never going to happen. And Jackson told the Bucs, don't draft me. They drafted him anyway. And it became one of those stories where he goes on to play for the Raiders. In his limited time, becomes a superstar, and the Bucs once again have nothing to show for their efforts in picking a first-round running back, especially when the guy said, don't pick me. I'm not going to play for you. Get it through your head. You're not going to convince me. All right. Now, according to CBS Sports and Jeff Kern, he has the franchise 5 of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, of course, Al, you did an article about a week ago, 2 weeks ago on the top 10 Bucs of all time. Well, this is a franchise 5. And again, this is from CBSSports.com. Basically, the 5 most impactful people each NFL has in their team history. Just 1 quarterback, Al, 3 non-quarterback players, and 1 head coach. Who's the quarterback they selected?
Other than Doug Williams, I can't think of anybody.
It is a shocker. Brad Johnson from 2001 to 2004 with his Super Bowl ring, of course, 3,049 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. 62%, of course, his statistics overall, 10,940 passing yards, 64 touchdowns, and 41 interceptions. And what the author basically says in his limited time, of course, he wins the Super Bowl, has a good year in that Super Bowl year. But I always feel like the guy that you associate with a franchise quarterback for this team has always been Doug Williams. So I guess you disagree with that selection, right?
Well, Brad played very well at the end of that Super Bowl season.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he really came together. And he was, he was a reason that they won the Super Bowl that year. But I'm not sure you could call him the greatest franchise quarterback in Bucs history. And again, my list was, top 5 or top 10 players. Yeah, you could put some coaches in there, and what Tony Dungy did with this franchise, taking it from where it was, all those double-digit losing seasons in a row, to the playoffs. As a first-time head coach, he may be, when you really look at everything, I think you can make a case for Tony Dungy being the most important person in Bucs history, period. And there's no one ever really close because of what he accomplished and what he did with this team.
And I think you could say Rich McKay, with him being the architect and getting those players like a Sapp and Brooks, starting off with Lynch and getting those players in the fold. But you're exactly right, Tony Dungy. So who's the coach that they select for their franchise 5?
Oh, I have no idea, because I don't agree with Brad Johnson. So I'm not sure where they're going.
Well, let the controversy begin, because it's Mr. John Gruden, who, of course, won the Super Bowl in 2002, was here until 2008, of course, won NFC South titles from 2005 to 2007. And basically what they say is Dungy was important, but he could never get over the hump, of course, never win a Super Bowl. And in his 4 losses, because he was 2-4 in the playoffs, he scored less than, or this team, or the team scored less than 10 points in those 4 losses. So that's their point. For me, it's always going to be Tony Dungy, no matter if John Gruden won the Super Bowl or not. The way that Tony Dungy came at it, basically taking a team out of the doldrums in less time. It took him 2 years to make them a respectable franchise. And this was a franchise that didn't see the playoffs since 1982. He took them to the playoffs in 97, his second year.
John Gruden came in with a team that was basically set to win.
Right.
Now, sometimes that's the hardest thing to do, is to win when you're expected to win.
Correct.
And so I certainly respect Gruden for that. But other than that first Super Bowl year, his true success, his success overall was very limited. And whereas Tony, what did you say was 2-4 in the playoffs? Okay. Okay. Well, that's still a lot of playoff appearances, and that's more playoff appearances than John Gruden had.
Agree.
And the major reason why the Bucs wanted Gruden here was that he was going to overhaul the offense and make the offense one of the best offenses in the National Football League. And the only time that really worked was very late in the season, and maybe in the playoffs in that Super Bowl run. But again, they scored all those points against the Raiders, but the vast majority of those points came on interceptions for touchdowns. So don't get me wrong. John Gruden deserves so much credit on that Super Bowl victory. But you take that away, and then you look at his record, and I think what was expected from John wasn't really delivered other than that Super Bowl year.
Yeah.
Which is not really fair to say, because that Super Bowl year is exactly why they brought him here. And he was able to get it done in 1 year. So I do admire him for that. But to me, Tony Dungy was the most important person because he put them on the movement going forward. And he kept going forward, even though he was fired. He just couldn't get over the hump of Philadelphia. And, people have a short memory. Now they love him. Now they say, oh, Tony was this, Tony was that. People forget that last couple of years with Tony, people were extremely frustrated. And, I don't think that's, when you look at where the franchise was and where he took it, I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair, but I think there's a lot of people out there that felt like that window was about to close. So Gruden was the best hire. Do you feel the same way that Gruden was the right hire at the time, or do you feel like this Bucs organization should have given him a couple years to see if he could, put them over the top and then go a different?
Given Dungy?
Yeah.
Well, no, I think Tony had the opportunity, and they just needed, I think, a culture change more than anything else, because I think the defense was just tired of the offense not being held accountable.
Right.
And they knew that John Gruden would hold the offense accountable. And that first year, it certainly worked, but it didn't work much from there, because I think the Bucs got away from what made the Bucs under Tony Dungy and Rich McKay. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that the Bucs ever made. See, what I would have done if I were the Glazers is I would have taken John Gruden and I would have taken Rich McKay, and I would have brought the two of them into a room and say, gang, I know you don't like each other. I know you both want things to go in opposite directions. I know all that. I get all that. And you're both aiming to get the other one out of here, but rest assured, you're both going to be here. I'm not going to let either one of you guys leave. So get it together, make this work. You're going to live out your contracts, and let's get this team in the Super Bowl again. And I think that would have gone this franchise is still feeling the effects of that, because a lot of the draft picks, of course, they lost draft picks by bringing John Gruden over, and they also lost draft picks with Keyshawn. So, but they still had not taken, they made some huge mistakes in drafts. They just did, the late Gaines Adams, God rest his soul. I mean, you can go right on down the list, on guys that just didn't work out, on guys they missed on with fairly high draft picks. And, I think I just would have liked the Bucs' chances better if you had Rich McKay making the personnel decisions than the guys that they had instead under Gruden.
All right. The rest of the franchise five, of course, Derek Brooks, 95 to 2008, 11 Pro Bowls, 2002 NFC Defensive Player of the Year, Leroy Selman, and Warren Sapp. Let me ask you this, Al, and I'll ask the fans out there. We're open with the phone lines if you have a franchise five, but here's how it has to go. It has to be one quarterback, one coach, and then three non-quarterbacks. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with the Tampa Bay sports broadcasting legend, Mr. Al Keck. So get on the phone lines if you have a franchise five. If you want to talk about the expectations being too much. Are you excited about the expectations? Are you not excited? Are you cautious? Give us a call here and we'll talk to you. So your franchise five, I've got to think that it's Doug Williams as the quarterback, right?
I would, yeah.
The coach is Tony Dungy, right?
Right,
And then the rest is Derek Brooks, Selman, and Sapp, right?
right.
Yeah, I think that's pretty easy at that point. I mean, that's mine too. I can't see anything else. And I get it. Winston is the record holder, but Williams coming into it, I mean, leading this team to respectability.
Well, he led this team to a playoff.
Right.
Jameis was not able to do that.
Right. And at the time when he was coming into the league, I still feel like no matter what quarterback besides Brady, that Doug Williams is always going to be the franchise quarterback no matter what. People are going to associate with that. Derek Brooks, it's pretty easy. They had the honorable mentions here. Mike Alstott, John Lynch, Simeon Rice, and Rondé Barber. Do you feel like Simeon Rice should get more love on this list? Do you feel like he should get more love with the top 10 players?
Well, I had him in my top 10, didn't I? Did I have him in my top 10? I can't remember if I just had him in my honorable mention. I can't remember. I think he may have been in my honorable mention.
Yeah.
I think the reason why Rice was so effective was because of Sapp and Brooks. So you take Sapp and Brooks away, and you put Simeon Rice in this defense. Does he have anywhere near the numbers that he had with the Buccaneers? I just don't think so. So, and going back to the quarterback situation, if someone had told you on draft day to look ahead 5 years and tell you, okay, over these 5 years, Winston will lead the NFL in passing, but he will not lead this team to the playoffs. I think most Buccaneer fans would have said, no way. There's no way he's not leading it to the playoffs within 5 years. There's just no way. Well, it happened, and it wasn't all his fault, but a lot of stuff was his fault with decisions that he made both on and off the field. And that's what you were getting in Jameis Winston. Yeah. That's what Jameis Winston is. And, hopefully he's matured. Hopefully he'll go to New Orleans, learn, and have a huge career from there. I think there's no doubt that he has the talent. But the real questions are the other stuff, the other things.
Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy, welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. What do you got to say? You're on with Al Keck.
Hey, can you hear me, Al? Can you hear me, Pete?
I can hear you, bud.
See, there you go. Isn't that amazing how technology works? I mean, you sacrifice your personal number for what you love and what you believe in, and this is what happens. Just saying, I'm trying to pat myself on the back. Shouldn't be doing that. All right, welcome to the Sports Web. What's on your mind?
Took one for the team, Peter. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So, Al, you did mention Simeon. He was in your honorable mentions, and I agree with that as well. But first, Al, I wanted to point out, of course, what we expect from you, anything but this, but great way to put the whole Drew Brees situation. Hey, anybody that gets in the way of this freight train right now and the way it's rolling, even though it was taken a little bit out of context and referring back to his, patriotic feelings toward his grandfathers, it was not the right time. His timing was ill-mannered, but, so he takes that. The eggs on his face on that. But, great way to put it. Appreciate you doing that. But
thank you.
No, thank you, brother. And but hey, no way. Tony Dungy is the cornerstone franchise coach. I mean, John Gruden was at the helm of the ship when they got that trophy and they won 37. And, as irony would bring it back, just like this season, Peter, and you even mentioned in the show how everything seems to be falling into place with Tom Brady and Gronkowski and everything. Gruden just had, if Gruden would have had 5 years to build a team here, and we remember Gruden built that Raiders team that faced in that Super Bowl, right? I mean, he built that team. He definitely put the team together, but Tony Dungy and what he did for us, I mean, if you're just looking back 20 years, maybe you don't know drive down industry, you don't realize what Tony Dungy went to, turning his entire franchise around and the cultural change. And then they were able to maintain that through the Super Bowl. But yeah, Tony Dungy, without a doubt, is my cornerstone coach, without a doubt.
Okay, Tony Dungy. What about the quarterback? Is it Doug Williams or is it Brad Johnson?
It's funny because I even want to try to. I want to try to, even though even though it's an exercise in futility, I want to try to say Trent Dilfer. No, it's Doug Williams. Even though in 79 worst at first, he leads that offense, or it was the defense that led the team, went on like 2002. But we had the first African-American quarterback drafted in the first round, and if they could call us the Yuccaneers, they could say bags on our heads. We had Doug Williams, the quarterback, and the irony is that just a couple of years later, when all the guy wanted to do was just get improved on his paycheck, $800,000, and still be not even on the top 30 or top 20 best quarterback in the league, Hugh Culverhouse doesn't want to be the face of the franchise and lets him walk. So, yeah, Doug Williams is my quarterback, without a doubt.
Okay, and you agree with the rest of them? You like Derek Brooks, Selman, and, of course, Warren Sapp, right?
I think we all three agree on that. Yeah, you can't go either way. But,
you really can't. No, you really can't. Go ahead, Ray.
No, I just want to work it back to, everybody out there, we're all holding our breath, everybody out there waiting for September to get here. We're going to see the basketball season go through. We're going to have 6 more months, or 3 more months to try to make sure that we're going to have this social separation in the practices and stuff, because, that throws the wrench into the whole works if we see a team have a breakout or we see a team have a run on COVID-19. But yeah, we just want to, sellouts at Raymond James, all 10 games this year, 8 regular season and 2 preseason, believe it or not. And we just got to see them get through all this and get there without losing sight of the prize. And that is continuing to keep our eyes on making sure we keep this in control, because you're bringing 53 guys, 80 guys together in the preseason, although they're talking about doing a limited number of guys on the, in the preseason, unlike last year's, which is going to make it even harder for an undrafted free agent rookie or try to make the team, right? But got to keep our eyes on it. We're just holding our breath to September. Great show tonight, guys. I just wanted to call and test out this 3-way. I love it. Love hearing both of you guys at the same time.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy. Keep on calling the Sports Web. All right, boss?
Always, brother. Good night, Al.
All right, there you go.
Okay, only Ray Kennedy can come up with the line of the night, which is
on calling the Sports Web. All right, boss?
Always, brother.
Hold on a second. All right, there you go.
Okay, only Ray Kennedy.
We got that on there.
Okay, only Ray Kennedy to call in and come up with the line of the night. I just wanted to test this 3-way. That's Ray Kennedy. There you go, bud.
All right, so we got Brent Allen in the lobby of the Pewtercast. Of course, we're going to get him on here in just a little bit. Actually, we're supposed to have him on about 10:30. So if you want to come back or if you want to get out of here, it's up to you. I could get both of you on here eventually. But, like I said, I always appreciate your time here on the Sports Web. Any final thoughts?
Well, I see here in the comments, Johnny Dean.
Mm-hmm.
And he says here, Doug Williams, as much as I love the guy, was not a good starting quarterback. Doug's completion percentage was horrendous at 47%. Brad, far better completion percentage at almost 63%. Here's the thing. When Doug Williams was the starting quarterback of this team, he was a young player, and he was coming into a horrible situation. And yet he was able to take this team along with this defense and get just enough offense and get it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay. Brad Johnson, not to downplay what he did, but when he came into this team, it was set and ready to go. So that's why I go with Doug Williams over Brad Johnson. Brad Johnson did his job, and that was to get this team to the Super Bowl and to win a Super Bowl. And he certainly did that. But when you think about the quarterback that I think meant the most to this franchise and got this franchise going from the biggest joke in American sports to all of a sudden, the playoffs. I think you got to look at Doug Williams.
All right, let's take another phone call. Welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Rick in Atlanta.
Hey, buddy. How you doing? You can hear Al Keck. Al Keck can hear you. So go ahead. If you have a question for Al before he leaves, we'll go ahead and get it. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I want to know why, you guys are talking about how this is, I almost said Doug Martin. This is Rojo's, this is like his shot. This is, this is his year. You think they're going to give it to him?
Right.
I don't understand I feel like, I mean, third round or whatever is not late to draft a running back. I mean, that's. I feel like they may be looking at him more, at Keyshawn Vaughn more, and I feel like that's kind of being overlooked.
Well, I think they're looking at Vaughn and they have a lot of confidence in him, but I think they're two different backs. And I feel like, look, you can see the potential of Ronald Jones. Can you use both of these running backs? Absolutely. I go back to the Patriots system where they're using multiple running backs. So for us to assume that it's going to be Ronald Jones and he's going to take up all the carries, that may not necessarily be right. But I feel like at the end of the day, because he is a second round pick and because it is Jason Light, you want to see what he can really do. And I feel like with all the weapons here, having a quarterback, the offensive line improved, I got to give him the volume because when he can get to that second or third level, he is really special. He has that ability. I think of him as like Warwick Dunn with that ability. When he gets to that open field, look out. It's to the house. So I feel like
that's how I would definitely describe Keyshawn Vaughn. I mean, that's how I highlight it. I mean, it's crazy good, and it's not against okay competition. It's against the big boys in the SEC, and I get the feeling. Listen, I got no problem with Rojo, but this is his third year.
Yeah, third year. Yeah,
I feel like it's not like they gotta see what he can do. I mean, for 3 years they didn't have the confidence in it previously, and they went and drafted somebody else.
Yeah.
So to me, number one, they didn't have the confidence previously. Number two, now that Barber's gone, they drafted another running back. I just don't think they have that confidence in it.
We'll see. They're definitely going to push him for the job. But you don't draft a third-round running back to just say, you know what, we're just going to keep him on the bench. So definitely going to get him more involved in the offense. And look, if Rojo doesn't show the consistency that this team expects, then Vaughn will definitely be replacing him. Anything else, Rick?
Yeah, Al, am I crazy about that?
No, I think, you've got to remember this is a different year. There are no OTAs. There are no workouts. We really have no idea how the Bucs plan to use their running backs. But let's remember this. They got rid of Peyton Barber for a reason. And Peyton Barber going into last year was the number one running back because he had come off a fairly decent year the year before. But Ronald Jones has shown at times he can be extremely effective. And I think the fact that they took a very good running back in round number 3, and we really don't know what to expect from these running backs, I think is the greatest thing we could possibly see, the greatest thing that could possibly happen for the Bucs for their offense. Because other than Tom Brady, the big question is going to be what happens with the running game. And if you have two guys and that third down back that they got very late in the draft, things could be really interesting because we don't know what to expect. We haven't seen these guys on the field. Yeah. And believe me, when you get to preseason, you're not going to see a whole lot of this stuff on the field. But week 1 against New Orleans, you are. And I would hope that Tom Brady is used to having a running back by committee. And it seems the NFL is going that way now. And I think they have a good combination of running backs. But it's time to put up or shut up for Ronald Jones. He had opportunities last year. If he stays healthy, hopefully, he'll get opportunities this year. But the fact that we really don't know what to expect from these guys or what they're going to do or how they're going to line them up or any of that stuff, I think is fan-effing-tastic because no one's going to know.
Yes.
And, untie that bow September 13th and let's see what happens.
I like it. Anything else, buddy?
No, I appreciate it and thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. There you go, Rick from Atlantic. Definitely call back here. Al, let me get you out on this. Go ahead and give me some final thoughts before we get you off the evolution of sports talk television.
Again, remember the old days when you could just kind of buy a ticket and go to a Bucs game and get a hot dog and tailgate in the parking lot and go to a game and buy a beer and watch fat guys get in fights and all that kind of stuff. That seems like it was generations ago. So I hope and pray that our world gets to the point to where fans can go to these games. I'm fairly certain that the NFL is smart enough to make this season happen. Obviously, we don't know that for sure, but if any business is out there that's going to do whatever it takes to make it happen, it's going to be the National Football League. You look at the way players and owners in baseball are giving it the triple option, trip, stumble, and fumble right now. Mm-hmm. And you can see where baseball is. And at this point, I don't care if they play or not, because they're so tone deaf about what's going on in this world. And if you're going to be arguing over this kind of stuff, just get it together. And if they don't get it together, I'm fine without baseball. But you don't see this happening in football. And you don't see this happening in football for a reason. Because this commissioner, these owners, are going to make sure the football happens one way or another. Now, there may not be fans in the stands, at least at the start, but you will have a season and you will have a Super Bowl in Tampa. And I just, just God willing that we can get through everything that we need to go through. But so much can happen between now and September 13th, because just look what has happened to our world since the 1st of March. So I just want to see this season happen. I just do.
I do too. And of course, you heard from Coach Arians in the press conference. He wants to see the fans come out because simply he won't be able to curse as much at the referees. I like to hear him curse at the referees. So we definitely need more fans. It's Broadcasting Experience, WTSP Channel 10, WFTS Channel 28. Thanks for your time, boss.
All right. Anytime, bud. We'll see you.
All right. See you. There you go, Mr. Al Keck. So without further ado, and we're running just a little bit late, but I do apologize. It is a Tampa Bay sports broadcasting legend. Of course, open phone line. The next guest here will definitely be taking some questions. And some of the questions for the night, the expectations for Tom Brady. Are you scared by them? Or do you embrace them? And your franchise 5, it has to be 1 quarterback from Bucs history, 1 coach, and 3 non-quarterbacks. 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. So let's go ahead and get him on right now. Mr. Brent Allen of the Pewtercast. Welcome to the evolution of sports talk television, my friend. How you doing?
What's going on, Mr. Peter Blake? I am so glad to finally be with you guys here, man. This is fun.
Absolutely. We got your co-host on here a couple times last year. We haven't really seen him this year, Mr. Rendax, but, always welcome, but good to have you on here. And, as I always ask every guest that comes on the Sports Web, did you ever think in a million years that Tom Brady was going to be the starting quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
No, and nor did I want him ever. For 12 years, I've hated this guy, and all of a sudden, I got to love him, and I kind of do. So, no, I absolutely never, ever thought that Tom Brady, I mean, who didn't believe in their core of their gut that Tom Brady was going to retire a Patriot and be a Patriot for life? Like, if anyone was going to do it, we saw Peyton Manning go to another team. We saw Brett Favre go to another team. We probably should have figured Tom Brady would eventually go, but I don't think any of us really believed he ever would. And lo and behold, here he is, and we got him. And, here's to the next 2 years, I guess.
Are you believing in the hype? Because all you hear is that Coach Arians is impressed with him. Mike Evans said about a month back that he's a franchise changer. You hear from this report from NFL Network, he's the clear-cut face of the franchise. He's killing it in the Zoom meetings. He's killing it in the personal meetings. I mean, should fans be excited about these expectations? Should they be cautious? Where do you stand? Are you excited about the expectations, or are you cautious? Because I know with you covering the Bucs for so long, and they do a damn good job. Just put that out there with PewterCast. I've been doing it for a long time. Him and Rendax, all love for you guys. We have you on the Sports Web anytime you want. You guys do a damn good job covering this team, but there has to be some type of cautiousness to this because of the expectations in the past. But this is kind of different, right?
It is. It is. I mean, we do this every offseason, right? We see what happens. We try to look at it with as much of an objective eye as you can. We never once deny our fandom of the team, but I think honestly, fans tend to look at things more objectively than even people who claim to not be a fan of the team are, you know?
Right.
And because like we aren't going to call, we're not going to put up with BS. Like we're going to call it the way we see it. So for years we get to the off season and we look, you remember a couple years ago when we had Mike Evans and we had Deshaun Jackson, we had Cam Brate, and we had OJ Howard. It was the year OJ Howard got drafted, right?
Yep.
And we had somebody else, and then we had this, and we went and got like all those great defensive linemen, the Vin Curry and the Chris Baker. Now we all know how it turned out now, but go back to that offseason. It was the HBO thing, Hard Knocks. It was the year of Hard Knocks.
You come off that 2016 season, you feel good because you're on a win streak, even though you lose to Dallas in the Saints. Yeah. You're close to the playoffs. Your defense is playing lights out. Hard Knocks hits and Hurricane Irma hits, and then it's complete disaster. Deshaun Jackson, probably one of the worst free agent pickups, and Chris Baker, his biggest highlight, Brent, correct me if I'm
humping a tree.
Humping the tree.
Humping a tree. Exactly. Yes, exactly. But even then, remember game 1?
Yes.
Where we came this close to shutting out the Chicago Bears?
Yes.
And we're like, oh, we just picked up right where we left off, and then the wheels fall off. And that was then. And then we come in the next year and we're like, who are you going to guard? Who are you going to cover? You can't cover everybody. And I'm hearing those things again this year, and I'm hopeful. I see the potential, but I've been down this road too many times before, Peter. I know like you have. I know like so many Buccaneer fans. I've been a Buccaneers fan for over 20 years. There are people who've been a Buccaneers fan twice as long as I have, been down this road every single year. To come back and answer your question, yes, I am excited for the expectations. I am excited for what Tom Brady could mean to this organization, to this community, to the culture. And Ren's not here, so I'm going to say that word, culture of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think when you hear all these stories about the Zoom meetings and about what people are saying, that's what Tom Brady's bringing. He may not bring the zippiest arm, right? But look, here's the thing. Okay, I try not to talk about old guys. With Jameis Winston, here's the phrase we had a half of a great quarterback, right?
Right.
Like Jameis Winston was phenomenal on a lot of cases.
Sure.
And not on others. And if we could just not have that you know, I heard you and Al talking about Brad Johnson and Doug Williams and these guys. Look, you can win with a quarterback who's not going to give it away every time you turn around.
Sure.
You know, and I don't mean to dig at Jameis. I'm just saying Tom Brady's not going to come in and throw all these interceptions, and the experience that he's going to bring. He doesn't have to be the Patrick Mahomes or the Lamar Jacksons or these guys, because Tom Brady's smart enough to go in and play with his brain, and he's going to let everybody else do the work for him. You know?
Yeah. And with Brent Allen of the PewterCast here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. You're exactly right. I mean, if you cut down on those turnovers from Winston, and I get it, receivers may have been running wrong routes, but you're still making throws early on in those games, which is basically like mind-numbing because you can't defend it. I mean, I could sit here and defend it, and I've been defending Winston ever since he came into a Bucs uniform. But when you start out on the first drive and you're throwing interceptions, it takes the momentum out, which is why I kind of laugh, because Bucs Twitter, they can be kind of vicious, all too well. And they were saying, a couple of weeks ago when Shaq came out on ESPN and basically said, look, Winston, if we bring him back a year, we go to the playoffs. But now that we have Tom Brady, we're an over-the-edge Super Bowl contender. Where do you lie on that? And I almost feel like Shaq is kind of trying to tell you something that the locker room was trying to tell you that there's some momentum here, that they kind of got tired of Jameis Winston, even with Shaq being in that locker room the first year. You've got to feel for that guy because he had 19 and a half sacks, did everything he could. The defense at certain points of the year did everything they could to basically dig out of a hole that Winston sometimes put him in.
Yes. Yes. You can't. That team went through the exact same thing that we all went through.
Right.
We would see the amazing throws that Jameis Winston would throw. They sat next to that man. They ate lunch with that man. They were in those meetings with that man. They heard him in the huddle and they believed, but then they would look up and there's 6 interceptions in the game. And at some point you just got to go, something's not clicking here. Yes, we can blame OJ Howard for trying to catch a ball behind his dang back. We can blame Cam Brate for dropping a brick right in the middle of his numbers. You know, we can blame all these other things. We could blame a defense for not putting him into the best position and making Jameis Winston handing the defense at the end of the game, and all the defense had to do was hold it and they couldn't. We could do all those things. And we did for 5 years. We did. And we were right. And at some point you just got to go, look, this is it. Now I've gone on record and I firmly believe, and I would love to say sources tell me, but they don't. This is just pure what my gut instinct tells me.
Right.
Is if Tom Brady did not become available, Jameis Winston would have received another contract.
Agree.
And so I don't want to, and you're not going to get me to badmouth or downplay too much of Jameis Winston. I'm not, because I still believe that Jameis has a lot of potential in this league. I think he just ran out his time in Tampa, and something to the caliber of Tom Brady came available, and the Bucs made the right decision in my case. You have to make that kind of a call when you're looking at that, and you're looking at it from the position of the Bucs. Like I get it. I totally understand why they did it. I think Jameis understands why they did it, to be honest with you.
I think he definitely does too. And you look at the coaching staff, not only Bruce Arians, getting up there in age. It goes back to what Derek Brooks was talking about on Fox Sports 1, where he's like, Brady is good for the team now. And there's a lot of fans out there to say, well, what happens in 2 years when Brady leaves? If you win a couple Super Bowls, I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but you got the greatest quarterback of all time. So there's a possibility you may win one in those years. Or would you trade it? I would definitely never trade that Super Bowl. If you had to give a deal again, 2 first-round, 2 second-round picks to win a Super Bowl, you do it all day, and you go through whatever you want to call what this Bucs team has gone through with no playoff appearances, no playoff wins, not being in the playoffs since 2007, of course, losing to the Giants, and then not winning a game since the Super Bowl year. If you had to do it all over again, most likely you would, because you win that Super Bowl. So what do you want? You want a Super Bowl, or do you want to be a constant playoff contender where you have the little chance to win, but you never get over the top? I'm a guy that goes for it, and I feel like the Bucs right now are going for it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's what I said going into this offseason about what should the Buccaneers do at quarterback. This is my opinion. And I was firmly in the opinion of, I want a long-term solution. So Tom Brady, to me, even if he came available, was kind of off the table because he's going to be a short-term guy. Sure. I wanted long-term. Make Jameis Winston a long-term quarterback. Sell the farm and go draft Joe Burrow if that's what you have to do, if he's the next guy. Bring somebody, get that next guy who's going to be here for a long time. Let's get some longevity here. Let's keep moving. Let's do what we have to do there. That's what I wanted to see. But then I started thinking, I was like, you know what, though? Mike Evans is going into his 7th year, 8th year in this league. Levante David's in year number 11. And Jerry McCoy was here for 8-9 years as well. We've got some phenomenal talent. And honestly, Ali Marpet's going into his 6th year on this team. And we're wasting these guys' time and their talent. And, then I started thinking of just going, for years, all the way back to the Hard Knocks year and the year after that. And last year, we would look every offseason at the roster and think how phenomenal the roster really was, right? And we go, this has got to be the year. This has got to be the year. So I sat back and I said, if the Tampa Bay Buccaneer organization, Jason Light, Bruce Arians, those guys, think this is a Super Bowl contending winning roster right now, and the only missing piece is a quarterback who's not going to turn the ball over, then go get that quarterback, even if it's just for a year or 2 years. Then go win your Super Bowl. Bruce Arians has already told us he wins a Super Bowl, he's out. That's fine. Blow up the whole team. Let people go. Send them off on their merry way. We've got the Super Bowl. They've got the Super Bowl. It's not just us, but they've got a Super Bowl too. Fine. And then we start the whole process over. And my God, if it's another 20 years of muck, I don't know what I'm going to do. But as you say, you make that trade every time.
Yeah, it's like purgatory. I get it. A lot of Bucs fans are in purgatory, and we're on with Brent Allen of the Pewtercast here. Does a fine job. Where can they find you? Because I definitely want to promote you and where they can follow you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Pewtercast is we are a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan podcast. We are available on all platforms podcasting out there: Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, Podcast Addict, you name it, we're out there. We're also on YouTube now. We're broadcasting. You can go to YouTube and actually watch the videos of Ren and I when we're recording, and you catch all the pieces that we cut out. If you want to go do that, some people like doing that over there. But on all the social medias, it's just at the Pewtercast everywhere you go. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at the Pewtercast.
Brent, is this the most pressure-packed year for the Bucs they've ever had?
Yeah, I mean, you say ever. After 42 years,
even 2002, which I feel like, look, you get John Gruden, everybody going to win the Super Bowl, but there's more pressure now because not only do you get Brady, but also you put all your chips in the table, not only draft, but the offseason, getting Gronk. I feel like this is kind of the most pressure packed. Do you feel the same way?
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that, Peter. Okay. Now, that being said, in 2002, I was a relatively new Bucs fan, just for a couple of years at that point, and I didn't follow the team nearly as much as I do now, not as closely. You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to say, to compare all of those. But in 2002, when I think about it, when you look at what they traded for John Gruden that year, right? 2 number 1 picks, 2 number 2 picks, $8 million cash for a coach.
Yeah.
Right? They went in and the people that they brought in, the turnover that they had and all of that thing, that was the Bucs pushing in saying, we're winning the Super Bowl now, come hell or high water. It's what we watched the Rams do a couple of years ago when they didn't do it. Right? That's a lot of pressure. I don't know that I feel that same pressure right now because we haven't sold the farm. We haven't leveraged. That's in 2002. They leveraged the future. We have not leveraged the future. Jason Light, Mike Greenberg, for whatever criticisms, especially Jason Light, not so much Greenberg on this, but for whatever criticisms that they've earned over the years, an entire draft year basically gone. There's some criticism there. They have set this team up in a really, really good, financially healthy situation to where we haven't had to leverage the future. And I don't know that that same pressure is here right now. But I would say this. I do think the expectation is as legitimately high right now as it was in 2002, if not higher. I think we believe it more this year than we did in 2002, that it's at least a possibility. And to go from what the Buccaneers have been to winning the Super Bowl this year, bring it, baby, bring it. I'm all for it. I'm here all day long.
Absolutely, Brent. And do you feel like Brady still has it? Can he make all those throws? Because that's been, the whole point of conversation. Brady's going to be 43 in August. Does he still have the arm to push the ball down the field and Coach Arians' offense? A lot of people looking at Jameis Winston, of course, the over 5,000 yards, second in passing touchdowns. He could push the ball down the field. But I feel like if you look at his film, he certainly definitely has something left. Now, is he the same Brady maybe 5 or 10 years ago? No, but look at the weapons. I mean, do you feel like he could still get it done and throw the ball down the field?
Brady can get it done because, as I said before, he's not going to be the one doing all the work. He's going to let his people do the work. He's going to go out there, and he's not going to be a game manager, Alex Smith guy. He's going to go out there, command the game, command the field, allow his people to do what he needs to do. And look, here's the thing about Tom Brady. Have you seen Tom Brady? Okay. This is not a guy who was Peyton Manning at the end of his career that looked like he was using a walker just to get around when he wasn't in pads. Right. This is not Brett Favre, who you knew was like, man, really, you needed to retire a few years ago. That's not Brady. And we all look at what's happened in the last couple of years and go, maybe he's lost his zip. Maybe he's lost this. But again, you go back to what did he really have to work with? Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. Look, the coaching staff certainly seems to think he's okay. They certainly seem to know what they're going to do with him and have an idea of how to do it with him. Is he going to throw a 60-yard bomb? Probably not very often. But is he going to get it where it needs to go when it needs to be there without it going into the hands of the other team? Yeah, I think he does. And I think he'll be okay. And I got to tell you, Tom Brady, the diet that Giselle has him on and the health that this guy is in, I mean,
amazing.
He's running around like he's a 28-year-old man. He really is. So I'm not worried about it at all. At all.
I think he's going to be rejuvenated by this offense, and with Coach Arians, another voice, and we're talking with Eric Wilson of the Sports Arena. He was saying the same thing. There's just something there. There's a different energy about this team. And speaking of energy, Rob Gronkowski as the tight end, the all-decade tight end, best tight end in this decade, now on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, takes off a year, gets back into wrestling. Yeah, I didn't too much care for the WrestleMania hosting, but I think he worked it, whatever else, 24/7 champion. Do you feel like he can still bring something to this team, or are they going to preserve him? Because you have O.J. Howard, you have Cameron Brate.
Yeah.
Don't forget about Tanner Hudson and Eclair. You kind of feel like they're going to mix those guys in, but Gronk, Howard, and Brate, those seem like the suspects at this point for this team.
Yeah, it does. And look, Gronk is a much better football player than he is an actor. And
really, that's what I'm saying. Like,
he really is.
I appreciate the effort, and I feel like he did put some good promos, which is unique because WWE, those guys usually are scripted. They don't post a lot of, they don't do a lot of great promos, but he did a good job of what he had. But I kind of feel like if he has that confidence, he took that year off, and Rex Ryan even commented on ESPN. It looked like he was running with the piano on his back that year off. I almost feel like he's also going to be rejuvenated, and he looks at this opportunity to say, you know what? With Brady there, with all these weapons, maybe I don't necessarily have to be Rob Gronkowski, but I feel like not only Gronkowski is a great pass catcher, but also a great blocker, which is going to help this tight end room tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, Gronkowski is going to bring to this tight end room what Brady's going to bring to the quarterback room. He's going to bring experience. He's going to bring familiarity. He's going to bring energy. Tom Brady, Gronk is a very different kind of cat than Brady is. You know what I mean? But for whatever reason, those two guys work together. And so you bring them in together like they're a pair, they're a team. And I'm not saying that it's just going to be Gronk and Brady all day long, because I don't think that's going to be it at all. But, I would expect to see Gronk maybe not be as highlighted as he has in previous team ups with Brady, but he's going to be there. I think we'll probably see a handful of really good plays out of Gronk over the course of the year. Maybe more than a handful, hopefully a couple handfuls of it. But the one I'm honestly worried about, you mentioned, was Cam Brate. Because the thing about Cam Brate that we've all noted is Cam Brate had this wonderful chemistry with Jameis Winston. Can Cam Brate develop that chemistry with Tom Brady without the OTAs, without all this other stuff? Does Cam Brate need that chemistry? Or can he do this with any quarterback? And so I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with him, because we all love Cam Brate. We all want the guy who is undrafted free agent to come in here and be a superstar, And I feel like we haven't seen as much of Cam Brate over the last couple of years, whether it's due to injury, due to O.J. Howard kind of coming in and taking out the shine. I'm really curious as to see what's going to happen with Cam Brate, or is he going to fade into the background under the lights that is Gronkowski and the up and coming O.J. Howard, if he can make a comeback this year?
Do you think he's the upcoming player? I mean, is he the breakout player for this offense? Because you have so many. I mean, people know about Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and of course Gronkowski and Brady, and maybe Ronald Jones could be a breakout, or Vaughn. But I truly think that O.J. Howard has the opportunity, and this is why, Brent, because the pressure isn't on him to be the number one tight end. He doesn't have to necessarily be the focal point. And on top of it, because Gronkowski has an injury history, Howard is going to get the opportunity to see some starting nods, and he's going to get the opportunity to see some of those passes from Brady, because Brady traditionally loves to pass to his tight ends.
It is certainly possible. I think the word there is potential. He has the potential to be a breakout player, just as Ronald Jones has the potential. Will he seize that potential? That remains to be seen. And anybody who says, "Oh, I think he will," you're just speculating, man. That we don't know. We'll have to wait till the season plays out. Ask me week 8 and we'll see how it's going. But he definitely has the potential. But don't forget, you mentioned Gronkowski's got a history of injury. OJ Howard has yet to play a full 16 games in the league.
It's true. And Kenny Grade also has his fair share of injuries, although he played through it.
He plays through them, though. Right?
He plays through those injuries. But you got to see more out of OJ Howard. And we're on with Brent Allen of the Pewtercast here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. But what's the biggest weakness? What's your biggest question mark with the Bucs coming into 2020?
Those are two different questions for me.
Okay.
The biggest question mark that I want to know is, I'm going to go back to that 17 team, I think it was 2006. It was the Hard Knocks year. Yeah. Remember, they were coming off that 5-game win streak the year before. We re-signed Mike Smith, who was getting all these looks from a bunch of other teams. Okay, it was like 2. And the Glazers re-signed him to a head coaching type contract to stay in Tampa for 2 or 3 more years. Right. And we're going to come out here and do this. And well, we all know how that turned. You know, Mike Smith was the greatest offseason signing that the Buccaneers had that year that wasn't a player. And, you know, we all know how that turned out. And we're looking at this defense this year under Todd Bowles. Had an amazing run of the defense at the end of last year. Are they going to come back out this year and pick up where they left off? I think this team has a better shot of doing it, but that's my biggest question mark, because I've been down this road before, Peter. You've been down this road before. We've all been down this road before. Don't lie to me, Bucs. Don't lie to me, defense. Pick it up.
Yeah.
Don't let us down, because we're depending on you.
Quit teasing me. Okay.
Exactly.
Quit teasing me with the greatness. Show me it. Be consistent with it.
Yes.
And I think the most exciting aspect of this, Brent, is the fact you bring back Shaq, of course, 19.5 sacks for the 1-year contract. You get JPP in the fold. You don't lose. So you really don't lose anything besides Nassib. You're going to depend on Anthony Nelson, whatever. I think it's going to work out for them. In fact, I think he's an upgrade. For me, it's Devin White, Levante David. That's going to watch. And then I'm excited. And I don't know, a lot of people are not necessarily excited about the secondary. You have Jamel Dean, you have Carlton Davis, and you have Tom Murphy Bunting. And then you had Winfield to the safety position. Whitehead played well. You hope that Justin Evans gives you something. It's a lot of young guys, but a lot of those guys have learned under Todd Bowles in that second year. So you feel like that progression is definitely going to show up this year in 2020.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, don't forget last year, okay? Jamel Dean, Sean Murphy Bunting, maybe Carlton Davis was in there somewhere. Anyway, like our new guys, especially our rookies in that secondary, if you look at them in the NFL, in the league, they were in the 1, 2, 3 position for passes defended, yards not allowed, interception. I mean, I forget what all the stats were, but you're sitting there looking at it going, oh my gosh, like these guys have turned up. And why the heck Jamel Dean did not get out there sooner and more often? And then they put him out there. He had a great game, and they sat him the whole next game, and it took him the next game after that to put him back in. Are you crazy? I am super excited to see what this defense can do. I believe in it more than I did in 2017 or whatever year that was. I'm excited, but that's the question mark. You asked, this is the I'm excited. There's a lot of potential, but you got to be cautious. And that's where I am on this one.
You definitely got to be cautious. Let's go out to the web heads here, because, not only is it a TV show, it's a radio show, so you can call the phone lines. And of course, the web heads here, Brent, they love the sports web. So let's talk to them. Let's interact with them. And of course, if you have a question for Brent Allen of the Pewtercast, 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. Yes, it is my personal number. Don't abuse it, but definitely use it here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. All right, let's go out to the web heads here. Rojo breaks ankles next. People got to understand, Rojo was railroaded his first 2 years. Rojo is he's friggin' added 20 pounds of pure muscle. Come on, man. What do you feel about Rojo? Because that's been the hot topic tonight. Of course, they draft Keyshawn Vaughn in the 3rd round. somewhat touted. I mean, you look at his statistics, consecutive 1,000-yard years of rushing at the Vanderbilt SEC competition.
Mm-hmm.
They also get Calais in the 7th round. They call him a smaller version of David Johnson. So there is some competition, but I almost feel like, people are saying, well, Rojo is being pushed. Okay, that's a good thing because he's inconsistent, but I still want to see Rojo with more volume. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, I do. Rojo, I don't know that I agree that Rojo was railroaded, and I don't know that I agree that he was railroaded his first 2 years. You could make the argument that first year, but there's been, there's some conversation about what really happened that first year with Cutters last year as the head coach. But I don't want to dive too much into that. But look, Rojo made a big step from year 1 to year 2 going into last year. All right.
Calling from Tony's Pizza.
Yeah, we're not going to take any pizza calls tonight, guys. So I'm going to definitely block that. Whoever called for a pizza, I've had my fair share of pizza. In fact, I'm tired of pizza. Even some of the best Howie's butter cheese crust with bacon and pepperoni. Over it. I can't have any more pizza. I'm too old for that stuff. The heartburn kicks in. I don't know about you. I've got to take a break from pizza. So whoever tried to call for pizza, thank you very much for calling the Sports Web. Let's go back out to the webheads here. Even Tom Brady said, wow, Rojo is amazing. Christopher says, me either. I just lost all respect for baseball. Oh, boy. Peter, stay glitchy. Okay. Brady brings something more. Then who are you going to cover? He brings knowledge. He won't be fooled by any defense thrown his way, and then is easy worth 4 wins. 4 more wins, you think? I'm absolutely shocked that simulations have come out and people are saying, 8-8, 9-7. Wait a minute. It's Tom Brady. You got Mike Evans. You got Chris Godwin. You got all these weapons. You've improved in the offseason. Your defense is coming back. I'm missing something. This team last year, Brent, should have had at least 10 to 11 wins. If you have a field goal kicker that can make kicks, sorry, Matt Gay, still have confidence, but you got to make those kicks. And then, of course, the turnover situation, whether it was Winston's fault or not, it still put this defense in a lot of holes. And then on top of it, the 7 pick sixes never help out a team.
No, they never do. And I think you're absolutely right. 4 more wins. Listen, what's that going to make us? 11-5? I don't know, Peter. Should I say this or not? That seems low.
I feel like it's low too.
That seems low.
11-5, 12-4. Who knows?
Maybe
13-3.
That seems low.
Look at the schedule. Compare the schedule to this year to last year. Last year was a gauntlet of road games to begin the year. You also had very good quarterbacks. You look at this schedule, Drew Brees first game. After that, a bunch of unproven bums. Sorry. I mean, they play in the NFL, but we're not talking about Drew Brees or Matt Ryan. You get Aaron Rodgers October 18th. After that, you're facing the likes of Teddy Bridgewater. Okay, great year with the Saints, but there's a lot of quarterbacks that have great years with the Saints and they move on. It's a Saints system. You have Tyrod Taylor. He's nothing to write home about. I mean, he may not even start. So there are definitely, players in there that you look at and you say, Drew Lock. Is Drew Lock, they have weapons, but Drew Lock, his second year, he's not scaring me. So I get it. There may be some trap games there, but there's not a lot of proven quarterbacks until that October 18th game versus Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers.
No, I think you're absolutely right. The how do I want to say this? I don't put too much stock in looking at a schedule and going, oh, well, they sucked last year, so they're going to suck this year.
Right.
Because we've seen too many. I mean, the NFL, it's a worst to first league every single year, right?
It's not for long. I mean, that's what it is. That's what.
Not for long. Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what NFL stands for. Not for long. And so it's hard for me to sit back and be like, but we're also not seeing a lot of teams that are having a ton of change, like at that position. And I'm not saying 16-0, but we're saying, but I mean, that may be the fan talking. I legitimately, Peter, I'm a Bucs fan. I don't follow a whole bunch of these other teams, man. I just don't, I follow the Bucs. I know what's going on with the Bucs and why we should win and why it's wrong if we don't win a game.
Right. I get it. We got Brent Allen of the Pewtercast on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. Open phone line. If you have a question, you're not trying to order a pizza because I don't want a pizza. 727-255-0391. 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web. Again, I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with Brent Allen of the Pewtercast. Now, CBS Sports came out where we're talking with Al Keck about this. Franchise 5, and this is from Jeff Kern.
Uh-huh.
And he says basically you have to have one quarterback from each team, and you have to have 3 non-quarterback players and 1 head coach. Now, here's his selections. Your quarterback is Brad Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
You have John Gruden as the coach, and the 3 remaining players are Derek Brooks, Leroy Selman, and Warren Sapp. Brent Allen, who are your franchise 5 and why?
Wow, you guys gave me no heads up to think about this. I think the other 3, it's got to be Derek Brooks, it's got to be Warren Sapp, and I don't know how it could be anybody else other than Leroy Selman, to be quite frank. So I think those 3 are gimmies. They're just gimmies, and that means there's no room for Rondé Barber, John Lynch, Mike Allstott, these guys that we all know and love. But you're going to force me into a coach. I got to go with my personal first coach here in Tampa Bay, and it's Tony Dungy, my man Tony Dungy. And I believe, and I still believe, listen, all due respect to John Gruden, I believe that if Tony Dungy would have stayed in Tampa, I think we would have won the Super Bowl that next year anyway. I really do. And I think the team might have even gone on to win a couple of more Super Bowls, or at least play in really deep contention instead of the roller coaster ride we went on with Gruden afterwards. That's just my opinion. Pure speculation. Who knows what would have really happened? But I'm going to ride with my man Dungy. I love what he brought to Tampa Bay. I love the culture change that happened here while he was here. I love what we did. So all due respect to Gruden, I'm going to roll with Dungy. And I heard the debate earlier between you guys talking about Doug Williams and Brad Johnson. And do what?
I said, hold on, caller. Go ahead, Brent. I'm sorry.
It's too early to say Tom Brady just yet. It's hard pressed to me to say Jameis Winston. Definitely not any of the people in between. So I think it's got to be down to those 2. And I think I'm going to roll with Doug Williams. I really am.
There you go. Smart man. I'm going to go with Doug Williams also. Love Brad Johnson. Think he did a great job, but just what Doug did coming out for the Bucs and making that team legitimate. Let's go out to the phone lines. Welcome to the evolution of sports talk television. What's on your mind? Where you calling from?
What's up, Peter? It's Curtis, man.
Curtis, loud and clear. You're on the Sports Web along with Brent Allen, the Pewtercast. You got a question for him, or you got a franchise 5, or you've got go ahead.
I got some of it all for you.
Okay,
so
bring it.
I agree with you as a fan. I would love to say 16-0 every season.
Come on.
Every freaking season. But I was looking at the schedule, and I say 12-4 is reasonable.
Okay. 12-4. I like that. I like that prediction.
Without a shot of a doubt. I always believe that as a Bucs fan, sometimes we always have those games that we're supposed to win and we lose, and then those games we're supposed to lose that we win. I don't understand it. It beats me. It's been beating me up for years. Coach Tony Dungy, hands down. Because all respects for Gruden for bringing in that offense for that team, but if Dungy hadn't bought in Kiffin and that defense and set the mold and the mindset of that defense, that offense would have been nothing without that defense, because that offense didn't even get started until halfway through the season.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, Dungy coming in there with all the losing, and I get it, they had some of the players, but it takes that coach to basically get those players to come together, to believe in that culture change. And Absolutely. Look, at the beginning of it, what did you go, 0-8, Brent? He went 0-8. It was a complete disaster. People were saying, why did this guy get hired? And he basically he was a steady hand. Remember, he's a third choice because they wanted to hire who? They wanted to hire Jimmy Johnson and Steve Spurrier, and both of them left them at the altar, like always, like Bucs fans know with coaches. And then Tony Dungy comes in.
Kelly, everybody else.
Bill Parcells
twice.
I hate Bill Parcells for that. Respect him as a coach. Hate him because he definitely left the Bucs at the altar. But when he comes in there, steady hand, cut down on the mental mistakes. Not this guy that has this great personality, and he's not going to give you the best soundbite like a John Gruden, but the players believed in him. They stayed the course. They did everything they needed to do. And in 2 years, they turned around. And I think it's not San Francisco that year. It's the next year. It's the Green Bay Packers. When they go up to Green Bay and they get Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers, and that defense basically arrives. And this is before the Sapp and Favre rivalry took off. But that defense held them like 13 points. Offensively, only scored 6 points. I was like, something is going to be special about this team. And then, of course, they beat San Diego and everything out there. That is history.
So my franchise 5.
Sure, go ahead.
Definitely have to go with Doug Williams as
Okay.
a quarterback.
Okay.
Well, how many defensive players?
Well, you've got here's the thing. You've got 1 quarterback, 1 coach, and 3 non-quarterback players.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you offense, defense, and special teams.
Well, no. You got it. No. You got it. You got to go with the constraints here. Now, the franchise 5. You can't change the rules. You can give me a franchise.
No. I'm gonna give you I gave you a quarterback.
Okay.
I gave you a coach. And what is my other 3?
3 non-quarterbacks.
Okay. I must say, God, this is going to be a weird list, but I'm gonna just say this.
I'll tell you what. Hold that thought. Let me put you on hold here. We got another call, and I'll go back to you here. Stand by, and we will go back to you here. There you go. Hold on a sec. All right, go ahead.
I'm gonna give you a weird list, but they were all great role players for us.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Mike Allstott.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Martin Gramatica.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm gonna go with Rondé Barber.
Okay, Rondé Barber. I can't disagree with him.
As much as I loved Sapp and Brooks, going back to that 2002 season, if you needed a yard for Mike Allstott, I don't care where it was, when it was, however it was, you were going to get that yard.
I agree.
And Martin Gramatica was so clutch. So clutch. Like the terror as a Bucs fan that we have watching our field goal kicker now. for the past since I can't even remember since Matt Bryant left. Matt Bryant left.
Right.
Watching your field goal kicker as a Bucs fan, you're sitting there like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh, he missed it.
Yep, absolutely. The Matt Bryant days when he hit the 62-yard field goal versus the Eagles, that seems so long ago, but you're exactly right. Ever since he's left town, there's been a field goal curse. I believe in Matt Gay, although you listened to Coach Arians the other day, and I know you heard this, Brent, and Curtis, thanks a lot for calling. Just stay on the line here.
I got one bold prediction for you, and then I got to go in here and spend some time with the wife.
Sure.
So everybody, like he said earlier, I've hated Tom Brady forever. Okay?
Yep.
But the one thing I'm going to say about the guy is when everybody thinks he's down, he always comes back and he basically tells everybody to kiss his behind. Don't be surprised if they don't see Tom Brady with, he's an old man. He doesn't have any arm weakness. He might win the MVP this year.
Yeah, well, I tell you right now, he's got that attitude. He's got the weapons. He's got every opportunity, and it certainly seems like there's a different energy here in Tampa Bay. We'll see how it transpires in 2020. Curtis, thanks a lot. Definitely don't be a stranger. Use that second call, but as I told you all the time, this is coming from a single man. Happy wife, happy life.
Well,
there you go.
Just have fun, brother.
Well, Peter, hey, I got 4 kids too, so.
Hey,
he knows how to have fun.
Yeah, you definitely got to keep her happy, Curtis. Thanks a lot for calling the Evolution, all right?
All right, brother.
All right, let's go back out to the phone lines here. Welcome to the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Frank calling from Plant City, Florida.
Hey, Frank, welcome to the Evolution. You're on with Peter Blake and along with Brent Allen on the Pewtercast. You got some questions or you got a franchise 5?
Yeah, my franchise 5 is definitely Sapp and Brooks and, of course, Leroy Selman and who's that, 3? And then you got to give Gruden the coach. You guys were talking about Dungy. Dungy built the organization. He changed the culture. But if I recall, we got McCardell, Joe Juravicius, Mike Pittman, if I recall, the actual Super Bowl was played against Gruden's old team, which we knew the plays. I don't think we have a Super Bowl without Gruden. Matter of fact, Dungy wasn't able to win the Super Bowl until he inherited enough offense, i.e. Manning, to win one himself. I don't think we would have ever won one if Dungy would have stuck around. I think that's kind of the only outlet he had there was to inherit someone like a Hall of Famer like Manning to even win. And as you guys know, up until Gruden came, we couldn't even beat Philadelphia. And even the same year, we got beat earlier in that year. And he was able to really find out what it took to beat them by changing up the offense. And so Gruden's got to get on the 5. He's got to get up there.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I understand, but I feel like I definitely understand the Gruden because he won the Super Bowl, but not only that, brought in his own offensive free agents like a Keenan McCardell, a Joe Jaravicius, of course, a Michael Pittman. A lot of people forget about that. Ken Dilger, Ricky Dudley, guys like that, even the offensive line. Everything was retooled to fit his offense, having the new offensive system. You had the defense there, but I feel like what Tony Dungy did, in my opinion, with the consistency of the years to bring that team out of the doldrums, I feel like it's a great conversation to have. But at the end of the day, for me, it's Dungy, not to take it away from Gruden because I'm still a fan of what Gruden did here. Respect him. I think if you could put a half ahead of Dungy and a half ahead of Gruden, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna jump in here. I think both y'all wrong, and I'm gonna change my answer. It's not Gruden. It's not Dungy. Doesn't it got to be the guy who crossed both of those two coaches and brought the culture change and then put us over the top? Ain't it got to be somebody like Monty Kiffin?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Come on now, you know,
defensive guru. Even when Dungy left, he still had this defense, and I feel like guys. Frank, you can definitely comment on this, and you know, definitely.
Monty doesn't get it either. You know why? Because I talked to Monty actually about 2 or 3 years after the Super Bowl.
Okay.
And Monty, who's been in football for almost longer than all of us combined being alive, said Gruden challenged the defense that year. And he said that defense was challenged in a different way. He says, if you guys are so great, you should be able to score on defense. If you guys remember even the NFL films, he did that from the beginning. And then he also said that Gruden gave some of the best pre-game and halftime speeches. And if you know, grown men are hard to, it's like herding cats. Grown men getting paid millions of dollars, getting on the same page is a tough task. And I got, my point is to you is a lot of people forget Michael Pittman had his best game in the Super Bowl.
Right.
McCardell caught 2 touchdowns. We didn't have enough offense. That's the whole point of why Dungy left town. We never had enough offense. We couldn't beat Philadelphia. And i.e., we're playing Gruden's. I mean, basically that team was minus Gruden, and that was it. And here we are with a Super Bowl ring. Without Gruden, we don't win it. We love Dungy, give him all the props. But at the end of the day, without Gruden, we're not holding the trophy.
I can't disagree with anything you said. I mean, I'm a Dungy fan too, and I just like what he did with this team. But you could definitely make the case for John Gruden. Anything else?
That's it for me, guys. I just wanted to throw that in there. So,
hey, man, don't be a stranger here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Thanks a lot for coming on and use that second call. All right.
That's right, man.
All right, there you go.
I'll say this, Peter, and I'm sorry to take over your show.
No,
when it comes to the Ring of Honor, I know a lot of people were upset that Gruden got in before Dungy. They almost felt like it was disrespect because Dungy set up what Gruden did. In this case, you got to give it to the guy who brought home the Lombardi. At the end of the day, Gruden did it. We talk about this like with Jameis and Tom Brady, right? Like, yeah, you have all this great stuff, but at the end of the day, Dungy didn't bring it home. I think he would have, maybe more than one, but he didn't. Gruden's the guy who actually brought it home. So you've got to give at least that first nod to Gruden, at least as far as something like the Ring of Honor. And I 100% understand why people would say Gruden. And I don't necessarily disagree with it. It just, okay, I'm going to go back to my original answer. For my money, it's still Dungy, though.
All right, there you go. Brent Allen of the Pewtercast here, a guest on the Sports Web, the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Let's go back out to the phone lines. The professor himself, Johnny Dean. I got to ask you, man, how do you like this phone line tonight? Does it sound crisp?
It sounds great tonight, man. It sounds great.
All right, man. Go for it.
All right, you ready to get some eggs thrown at me?
All right, go for it, buddy.
Okay. Doug Williams,
Okay.
Not a franchise quarterback.
Oh.
Everybody's got to take their love out of the question and look at Doug Williams. He was a consummate backup when he left here and went to Washington. Even after winning a Super Bowl, he was put back as a backup. Doug Williams is at the time. I was there. I stood on those fields. I watched those games. At the time, Doug Williams was bailed out by a great defense. The 79 Bucs were the number one ranked defense in the league. That's against the Four Horsemen. That's against the Purple People Eaters. That's against the Chicago's Monsters of the Midway. They were the number one defense in the league. People do not give that enough credit. And there was no face of the offense. The face of the franchise was Leroy Selman.
Okay.
Nobody interviewed Doug Williams. Nobody was interviewing anybody else. If there was an offensive leader, it was Ricky Bell that year.
Okay. Does he deserve to be in that conversation? And I look at Brad Johnson. I get he's won a Super Bowl, but it's only 3 years. It doesn't seem like
Brad Johnson was the first time there was an offensive look. The first time anybody ever looked at the offense with the Buccaneers. And yeah, you can put that on Gruden, but I'd take Gruden and Dungy both out of the equation and make it Rich McKay. Rich McKay was the founder of that team.
Well, you mean John McKay, because you can only use one coach. Yeah.
No. I'm talking about the 2002 team, Rich McKay.
Oh, Rich McKay. Well, Rich McKay definitely deserves credit, and I think he deserves to be in that Ring of Honor because he's the architect and the person that picked guys like a Sapp and a Brooks and was, that kind of transformed them. That 95 draft, if you get a Brooks and you get a Sapp, those are two Hall of Famers, and then eventually you get Alstott and Dunn and Barber and players like that. And then you have the foresight, which the Bucs are really never aggressive. They make that trade for Keyshawn Johnson. And at the time, you trade 2 first-round picks because you believe he's the missing piece, and it doesn't necessarily turn out to be that way. But he was aggressive sometimes in his approach, but he was definitely a steady hand as well as Dungy. So I think you definitely got a good case there. But for this formula, it only says 1 coach, 1 quarterback, and 3 non-quarterback players. So if you're going to have a coach, it would have to be John McKay.
I can't put Gruden in there for the simple fact that Gruden got us there, but he cost us over a decade of mediocrity because of it. And that's not a franchise.
Right. No, I that's where I'm putting Dungy in there. But then again, you go back and forth. Gruden won the Super Bowl. Then afterwards,
and that's where I think it's a combination of stuff. It really is. And a big piece of that, talking about Rich McKay as the GM and then Gruden, they leveraged the future to buy that 1 year to go win a Super Bowl. So I'm with you because I even referenced it earlier myself. The roller coaster, Johnny, that roller coaster of mediocrity that we've had for a decade after we won the Super Bowl. And then we plummeted since then. We haven't been on roller coaster. We've just been down, and it's saddening. But I get it. I really, really get why people don't say Gruden. It's why I don't personally say Gruden. It's why I say somebody else. But
John McKay could, as far as my franchise coach goes, it has to be John McKay. Nobody ever did what John McKay has ever done, and nobody ever will because they changed the way expansion drafts are done because of the team. So what John McKay did in 3 years' time with IR players from IR, cast-offs, and people who are going to be cut anyway, it's completely amazing, and you'll never ever see that done again in football.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's definitely a good point. Anything else, Johnny Dean?
That's it, bud. I just want to chime in.
All right, appreciate it.
Phone lines tonight, man.
Yeah, man. You finally embraced technology. I like Skype. It was a good start, but we've kind of evolved a little bit, if you will. Use that second call. Thanks a lot, Johnny Dean, the professor. All right.
All right.
I like that, man, because you get the interaction. They can hear you. You can, with the Skype line, it was like, well, you have to hang up and listen. Nah, I ain't down with that. We're on with Brent Allen of the PewterCast. Yeah. Killing it tonight. I don't know how much longer you have, but want to read these comments from these webheads, and then I'll get you out of here. If you want to stay as long as you want to. We usually go about 3 hours here on the Sports Web. Winston will be back after learning under Sean and learning their secrets, says Steve. Brady wants to win more than one Super Bowl with the Bucs. We have to win now, says Best Virtual Edits Video. Yash says, thank you. That's how I feel, Mr. Johnny Dean. All right. Steve says, you can celebrate a Super Bowl for 5 years because they are so hard to come by. Laugh out loud. Absolutely. Yes, it's more pressure packed. Sam says, is he great enough to do it all anymore? No. Sam also says he showed that in New England last year with the lack of weapons, but he doesn't need to do that anymore. He has a guy like Gronk, G-Baby, Mike, OJ, Brait, Vaughn, Rojo, Johnson. He could very easily be an MVP candidate. Sam also says, another great show, Peter. Thanks for your dedication to putting out great shows 3 nights a week. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights are the best with the Sports Web. It's the evolution. Lots of love from the webheads. Thanks a lot, Sam. Appreciate you. That's why I do it for guests like Brent Allen and guests like Eric Wilson and Al Keck. And we'll have Leo Haggerty and Ozzy, the sports junkie, here live on Wednesday night. So we continue to keep on giving you the Bucs content that you deserve. Brent Allen, my thoughts on Jamel Dean. Exactly. LeBron is better than Jordan. Best Virtual Edits Video always puts this out there. LeBron or Jordan?
For me, it's Jordan. It's just Jordan. I mean, it's like asking about Babe Ruth. Like, Babe Ruth couldn't play in today's game of baseball. You know what I mean? Or maybe he could. I don't know. But it's 2 different games of basketball. It's 2 different eras. You know, each are the greatest of their own era. But if I put them up against each other, I'm going with Jordan.
To me, this is the thing. Everybody says LeBron is the greatest in this era. Every time it seemed like in a finals, you have Kevin Durant, who's the MVP at his position. You also have Kawhi Leonard, who's MVP at his position. Yeah. So to me, he's not the greatest player. I think Kobe Bryant is a better player than LeBron James. And then furthermore, I feel like if LeBron James went back to Jordan's era, he would absolutely get crucified. If Jordan were in this era where there's no defense at all, and basically you can't touch somebody and all you do is shoot threes, I'm definitely taking Jordan all day long by far. Let's go out to the phone lines. Welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. Rick from Atlanta, thanks a lot for using your second call. You're on with yours truly, along with Brent Allen on the Pewtercast.
LeBron would have cried and run back to the locker room against the Pistons.
Let the truth set you free. Thank you very much, sir. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh, that's not even a question. So I think the 5 franchise. Now I go back to day one. Now I don't think there's a quarterback you can cram into and call a franchise quarterback for the Bucs. I mean, Randy Hedberg, and I know
that's why that's a hard question for the Bucs. It really is.
Randy Hedberg.
Yeah, there's just nobody. I mean, it's brutal. I mean, there's really nobody you can call the franchise quarterback. You got to love certain ones of them because if you're a fan, of course you're gonna love Brad Johnson. But franchise, well, he had a great moment. He had a great year at the end of the year, but franchise? No. So, I mean, God knows at this point he hasn't even played a game. Give me Brady. But I mean, there's just nobody.
Right now, if you had a gun, I probably shouldn't say. I'm not going to say that. That's not good. Right now, if you had to pick a winner in the lottery, are you picking Doug Williams or Brad Johnson or somebody else?
Oh man. I guess
I'm just so hard on their callers tonight. I'm putting them on the spot.
Doug Williams. Okay. I really listen. Here's the thing. Doug was greater after he left than he was with the Bucs.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't call him a Bucs franchise quarterback. If you're gonna do
and now wait a minute. Remember 79, 80, 81, and I believe also 82. He led him to the playoffs, and then he went to the USFL and won a Super Bowl with the Washington Redskins.
They did not go all of those years to the playoffs. They did not.
Did they not?
In 79. No, they went in 79 and then they fell back down.
Okay, but they went in 81 and 82 because they lost a couple years to the Dallas Cowboys in the first round. Did they not? Or am I wrong?
They did not go 3 straight years with Doug Williams to the playoffs.
I don't know. I think they went.
I'm 9. Listen, I can send you pictures of me from those years holding up my season tickets.
Okay.
But maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that's. It could be. I'm getting old.
Well, we're all getting old here. It's not an excuse. I mean, I'm just joking.
Yeah,
All right, let me see
listen,
here.
Mike Allstott, and I got to give Mike Allstott. I got to put him in there just because he was like he set the whole tone and everything for the success that the offense eventually had with under Gruden, and it was all just this. I'm not going to quit until I get there. Until think about even when you look at that offense, he played such a big part in that offense. Nobody else from Wark Dunn and all those days, they were all gone.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was a whole bunch of new guys and Allstott was still chugging along, doing
All right.
what he did.
I got something for you. Ready? 79, 10-6. You were right about 80. They did not make the playoffs 5-10. But in 81, 9-7, and in the strike shortened year, 5-4, lost in the wild card round and the divisional round. And I believe that was both years where they lost to the Dallas Cowboys. And of course,
was Williams with them in that year?
Yes, he was.
Okay. I just remember the saying being worst to first to worst. I mean, yeah, they were. I remember it being that they kept bouncing back and forth. But anyway, I would say Mike Allstott for sure. I think he's the man. As much as now, my favorite player is probably Lynch, but I would not put him in the. If you got to pick three of them, I wouldn't put him there. I would say you got to put Derek Brooks there, and you got to put Sapp. But I don't know. I mean, how do you leave out Leroy? How do you leave him out of there? I mean, it's
exactly
you can't.
Exactly.
I mean,
I know.
He's the first Hall of Famer, first overall pick. I mean, you don't get rid of nobody. I mean,
no. I mean, out of the ones I just mentioned, I mentioned three. So if I have to get rid of one of them. Y'all are gonna. I'm gonna get in all kinds of trouble for what I'm about to say. I'd pull out. I'd pull out.
Say it.
Brooks, and I love the guy. I love the guy.
I pull out. Did you say Sapp? Because I pull out Sapp over Brooks. I'm sorry.
Sapp was the personality of the team that made that whole thing work. I mean, he's the guy who he motivated Lynch. He motivated all the other players. He was the guy who came into the attitude and he set the tone and the heartbeat of that team. I can't stand him,
right?
But he was what that team was all about.
Rick, hold on a minute here, Rick. I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to go back to this call. I'm going to put this call on hold. Stand by.
Yeah.
All right, hold on a minute, and we'll go back out to. Oh, hold on a sec. We will. All right, there we go. We'll go back out to you. Go ahead, buddy.
Okay. And the one coach-wise, you got to say Dungy, and it's for this simple reason. Dungy changed what this team was all about. Gruden brought it home, but Dungy, like I said, I go back to year one. Okay, I go back to April 24th, 1974, when they announced the team. And I remember that date. And Tony Dungy changed everything. We were just a joke up until that point. And when Tony Dungy came in, the whole way people looked at the Bucs, the way the Bucs looked at themselves, the performance on the field, and even the uniforms, everything about the team changed under Dungy. Now, he didn't bring it home. He let the offense slide. All of that is true. But if you sit there and you say, look, Gruden won it with Dungy's defense. Okay, that's a fact. Gruden, they needed each other. I mean, it took both of them to win the Super Bowl. Which I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, Dungy couldn't get it done without that offense, but Gruden wasn't going to get it done without that defense.
Oh yeah, all day long. So, and that defense, I tell you right now, if they have an offense or a quarterback, and Brent, you know all this too well. If they have some type of decent offense, we're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the same breath as the Steel Curtain. That's how dominant they were in that 10-year span. And nobody talks about them because of the lack of Super Bowls. And it's disappointing. It really is.
But it is. And they just, I remember watching the games and it'd be like, oh crap, our offense has the ball. Mm-hmm. Now that's so backwards in football. But you when the defense got on the field, you'd feel like, hey, okay, now maybe we'll score. And I mean, that I'm not kidding, and I'm not exaggerating. That's what it was like.
Yeah.
I mean, you felt more hope when the defense was on the field. That defense was unreal. It was so exciting to watch.
It was.
And I will tell you, it's been that long since I've been excited about this team like I am this year. And I've got that vibe. That whole vibe is back.
Yeah.
That whole thing is back. Like, something's happening.
Yeah.
Something's happening.
And I tell you right now, Rick, a great call as always here on the Sports Web. That defense has to get back to that mentality that when young quarterbacks come down here as a rookie or first-year quarterback, they're getting busted. And they're not beaten. They're not able to have all that time in the world to throw the ball. When quarterbacks came down here during that defensive time, they were absolutely manhandled, and the Bucs defense has to get back to that mentality.
And as thrilled as I am that we had Brady, can we please get a quarterback? This team has never re-signed a quarterback. Think about that.
Yeah.
We are coming up on 50 years.
Yes.
We've never re-signed a quarterback.
Amazing. 50
years. Come on.
Amazing history. Yes.
Yeah.
Good
All
stuff,
right,
Rick.
man.
Thanks a lot for calling the Sports Web. All right, boss?
Have a good one.
All right, let's go back out to the phone lines here. Get rid of him, and let's resume this call. Welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's Cole calling from Lakeland.
Hey, Cole, what's on your mind? Welcome to the Sports Web.
Well, thank you very much. I wanted to give you my franchise 5. I wanted to say that some people don't realize that I've got loyalty. The coach has got to be John McKay because he did the most with the least.
Okay.
And they went to the NFC Championship game and are one busted bicep of Doug Williams away from winning and going to the Super Bowl.
Good point.
And my quarterback has got to be Brad Johnson, because not only because he won the championship, but because he's the first quarterback that, and I've been a fan since the dawn of time as far as the Buccaneers are concerned. He's the first quarterback I can remember that I didn't cringe every time he dropped back and thinking, oh, he's going to throw an interception or something bad is going to happen. He was the first quarterback I remember having confidence in when they dropped back. And the 3 guys that I have are the best 30 defensive end in the history of the league, and that's coming from Bill Parcells, and that's Leroy Selman. And Derek Brooks is, 100% all Buck, Hall of Famer, no-brainer. And my third is got to be Mike Allstott, and that's simply because he did not go anywhere else. He stayed a Buccaneer, and I think if Tony Dungy stays the coach, I don't think we win the Super Bowl, but I think that Mike Allstott is a Hall of Famer. I think that's how I feel.
Well, I kind of feel like you because, look, if Mike Allstott gets the carries or he's on another team like the Steelers or the Bears, most likely he's getting that consideration. To me, Mike Allstott was a feature back. He was long before his time, and you still look at his highlights, amazing, and he was absolutely underused in Gruden's offense. There's no doubt about it. You agree with that, Brent?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right.
So, what else?
Thanks.
I was looking at the comments over there. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It happens. The web heads are out in force tonight. Go ahead.
That's fine. I cannot believe that your guest here has said that they might win 2 with Tony Dungy. I don't think I don't think you have the foundation without Dungy. I don't think you win the Super Bowl without Gruden. And that's just, you can't have one without the other, in my opinion. There's too many people that came along after Dungy left that were crucial to that Super Bowl. Keegan McCardell, the running back wouldn't even be on the team because he had run-ins with the law. He wouldn't even be on that team with Dungy as head coach. So that's how I feel. And I just wanted to tell you guys that because I kept hearing people talk about Leroy Selman and how can you not bring him on? He's number 1 on my book, and I can't put Warren Sapp there because he went to the Raiders and because of the kind of person that he was, just rubbed me the wrong way. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just can't put him on my franchise 5.
Let me ask you something, Cole. Did I go to school with you at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting?
Yes, you did.
What's going on, buddy? Thanks a lot for good looking out. Thanks a lot for calling the evolution of sports talk television. Don't be a stranger, all right?
I won't. Definitely. Take care.
All right, man. There you go. Somebody from school. I love that when they call in here. And the phone line is open. I mean, like I said, I go 3 hours if you want. You continue with the content. I'm not going to keep Brent all night long unless he wants to stay. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with the Pewtercast, Brent Allen. Tell Rendax I said hello, and again, tell him he's welcome on the Sports Web. Both of you guys, we can get you both on here. So do you want to wrap this up, or do you want to stay for a little longer and answer these webheads questions?
And I'm around to hang out, but I want to respond to what he was just saying a little bit ago about Dungy and not needing Gruden. I get what he's saying. I agree. You need both sides. You could have used both sides. My thing with Dungy is the defense that we had was so dominant that all we really we didn't need a phenomenal offense. We needed a good offense. We needed an offense that could give them 17 points on the board and let the defense take care of the rest of it. I feel like if Dungy would have stayed around, maybe not in 2002, hopefully, but maybe not in 2002, they would have, first of all, they would have 2 extra number 1 picks and 2 number 2 picks that they could pick up. There would have been an offensive coordinator that they brought around to bring at least somewhat of a competent situation had Dungy stuck around for the next, I don't know, let's say the next 10 years. There was a previous caller who said, well, it took him going away to go find Peyton Manning and to get in that situation. I agree. I can understand exactly what you're talking about there, but that defense, I mean, because you're talking about the Iron Curtain, you're putting them up against that 85 Bears defense. You're putting, the 2002 Tampa Bay defense is in that conversation every single time. It's never not, and for good reason. And I just think that if we would not have leveraged the future as much, I've said that 3 times now, if we would not have leveraged that future, there would have been more longevity there and more opportunity to win a Super Bowl, which I think would have resulted in more Super Bowls. And that's just me rubbing my crystal ball, looking into it. You know what I mean?
Well, remember at the time, they thought they were going to get Bill Parcells. They didn't get Parcells. And then Rich McKay's hire was the greatness of Marvin Lewis, who I felt like, look, he's not going to get them over the edge. He's not going to. So I think Dungy's fate was sealed once the Glazers figured out, you know what, that window is kind of closing. We can't keep on losing in the first round to the Philadelphia Eagles. But I love Tony Dungy, and he's a hell of an interview. If you've never interviewed him before, I've interviewed him twice. Great interview. Let's go back out to the webheads here. Talk to these guys. Off topic, but who is the GOAT, Brent, MJ or LeBron? We kind of discussed that already. Tom Brady didn't come to Tampa if he thought they're going to go 8-8. Would have stayed in New England. MJ easily just asking to get best virtual edits going. Selman, Brooks, Sapp, Dungy, Williams, same as Al. MJ, but I'm an old guy. Well, we're all old here, but we all watched the greatest player in NBA history, period. And I don't care about the eras. The eras are no different. In fact, it's a weaker era than it was in Jordan. Just my opinion. Definitely MJ. Johnny Dean. Everyone sees Doug with the hearts and not in real time. If you remember, all the fans were calling for his head. If not for the way Culverhouse treated him, people would be saying he was the reason the 79 Bucs didn't win the Super Bowl, let alone the championship game. Blake says Tony Dungy had 1 losing season in his entire career. That was the first season with the Bucs. Doug, Williams, Sapp, Brooks, and Selman says Yaj, Dungy. Blake says they fired Matt Bryant after his son died. Karma seems to always come back and bite the Bucs when they mess up decisions. Cut Donald Penn. He had struggles at left tackle since, while Penn became a top 5 tackle. Blake again, but it was Tony Fungus defense that beat the Eagles, not the offense, and I believe that would be Tony Dungy, not Fungus. That's really good there, Blake Anthony. Barber pick 6. If Gruden had cost the Bucs a decade of mediocrity, then I would give him more credit. Rich McKay, we talked about that. Johnny Dean, Preach Dean. Yash says Monty was the man. Gruden all day. I think that was Frank who called in. Thanks a lot for the call. Appreciate you. Gruden, greatest lie he told. He ain't seen nothing yet. Tampa, laugh out loud. Was it not worth it? It was absolutely worth it. He was right. We ain't seen nothing since. Ringless without it. Agree. NFC Championship game in 3 years. Beat with scrubs from the IR and practice squad. He's talking about the 70s team. Best virtual edits. So many LeBron haters on here. Mike Glennon, no. Leroy Selman led the team to the playoffs, not Doug Williams. Come on now. Doug Williams definitely had some say in that season. Saying Doug Williams led them is like saying Trent Dilfer led the Ravens to their Super Bowl. Wrong. That way, Ray Lewis' team, just like the 79 Bucs, were Leroy's. Here's a fun fact. Peter Blake has the same amount of wins at starting quarterback as Ryan Griffin. Blake Anthony of Sports Talk 49, thank you very much, or thank you very little. Christopher, Alstott was a beast. Absolutely. Blake says Brent looks like he's thinking about a chicken chalupa. Are you thinking
delicious? Those are delicious.
Who doesn't like a chalupa? I like a chalupa. You like a chalupa. If you want to see a chalupa, we'll definitely give you maybe another 30 minutes. Probably not. I'm going to probably get out of here with Brent. Here's the question of the day. If Dungy would have stayed, would the Bucs have picked up the same free agents as they did with Gruden? Absolutely not. They would have not. Would the success been the same or worse? I think it would have been the same or maybe possibly worse because like Al Keck mentioned, the Tampa Bay sports broadcasting legend, the defense to me was kind of tired of carrying the load and not having the offense help them out better because they would have not mortgaged the future. Rich McKay would still have been there. How do you feel about Dalvin Cook asking for a new contract? I don't know why Dalvin Cook is asking for a new contract. Play out another year. Let's see what you got. I'm a big-time Cook fan. And if I'm the Vikings looking and seeing what has happened with Todd Gurley and his big-time contract numbers.
Le'Veon Bell.
Right, Le'Veon Bell.
Doug Martin.
He holds out. He holds out. I mean, it's a shame. I get it. Cook wants to be paid his money. He's still under contract, and you just don't pay a lot of running backs in this league big-time money because eventually those tires or those tread on those tires start to wear off. How about we come up with the anti-top 5 for the Bucs? That would be funny. We'll do that on Wednesday night with Leo Haggerty and Ozzy, the sports junkie. You can do that. I'm liking this Brent Allen guy. Can we keep him? We'll definitely get him back on. And I'm really going to piss people off with my Alstott take, but I will save it for another day. With that being said, and then Blake says, I'm going to say this right now. If they pay, cool. He's going to get in legal trouble. And a lot of people say that's the reason why the Bucs didn't draft him. They drafted O.J. Howard in the first place. A lot of rumors coming out that he would not be a good fit with Jameis Winston. And, of course, with all the trouble that would have followed him being in the same state. Don't know if you heard anything about that. But, Brent Allen, final thoughts here on the evolution.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was just thinking about the Dalvin Cook thing. And, look, I remember seeing the hugs and the high fives and the glee and the joy on Cutter and Light's face at the idea that they got OJ Howard. Sure, they probably decided a long time before that draft that they weren't going to be drafting Dalvin Cook. But when OJ Howard fell to them at the time, man, that was like a gift from heaven. So, I get it. I really do. I know why people wanted Dalvin Cook, but I mean, OJ was there. So, but hey, listen, Peter, thank you so much for having me on. It has been absolutely a blast. Reading these comments is that's what I got lost in a few minutes ago. Reading some of these comments, going back through that. But man, this is a cool show, man. I just want to say this as a person who's seen the explosion of what's happened in Bucs fan media, fringe media, whatever you want to call it. I love what you say, the evolution of sports talk radio or whatever it is.
Sports talk television, the evolution of sports talk television.
There it is. But Peter, what you guys do, you guys add so much to the conversation. You add so much to the space here that's not just being copycatted all the way around. I love what you guys are doing here with the sports web. And you guys are just awesome, man. I love getting to see you guys out here as part of the Buccaneer space.
Absolutely. And we'd love to have you on anytime. Go ahead and get Rendax as your co-host. We'll have you on here on the evolution. Go ahead and promote yourself. Talk about where they can find your the Pewtercast, which once again, they do a damn good job. I have nothing. Look, I'm not a podcast, and I get a little bit offended when people say I'm a podcast because that's just the way I am. But I love what they do. They do a good job with the PewterCast. Go ahead and promote yourself.
Yeah, no, listen, guys, we're in the off season. We roll back to every 2 weeks, just about, unless something's funky happens during the off season. When training camp kicks in, Ren will be back with his training camp diary. He'll be there every single day throughout training camp. And then we go 4 times a week during the season. Peter, I'm not sure what you're doing. We're busy right after the games every night doing a call-in show, just like you're doing right here with our show. And then we have midweek shows where we interview people that are there in the building. We do fan shows, we do weekend wrap-up shows, all that sort of stuff is happening. It's a great time with what we've got a good formula that we're using. And we're at the PewterCast, like I said, across all the social medias. You can find us at the PewterCast across all podcasting platforms. We're out there on YouTube. We're getting into a couple of various areas. StreamYard is coming online for us this year as well. And just tons and tons of fun stuff. And man, it's always a good time. Win, lose, or draw, we're right there rocking together, man.
Absolutely, we're rocking together. Thanks a lot, Brent Allen, for joining me here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. All right,
go Bucs.
Good stuff, Brent Allen from the PewterCast here. We'll read some more comments. Of course, want to bring him on here really quick because somebody did agree with you. Hold on a sec. Lady B Nita says, I agree with Brent 100% on that. 2 different eras, no comparison. So there you go. We had
that's the MJ LeBron debate. Yeah.
There you go. Good stuff, Brent. Thanks a lot for joining me here. All right.
You got it.
All right. There you go. So great show as always, Brent. Appreciating you. Let's see. Johnny Dean, great show, guys. A great show as always. And of course, beautiful show, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. Thanks to the Tampa Bay sports broadcasting legend, Mr. Al Keck. 40 years of sports broadcasting experience, WTSP Channel 10, WFTS Channel 28. Of course, we had Eric Wilson of the Sports Arena, 1070 a.m. on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Only does 30 minutes. We're going to get him out of that 30-minute scale. He's going to be on the Sports Web more and more. And then, of course, Brent Allen of the PewterCast. Go and check them out. On Wednesday night, we'll have the legend himself, Mr. Leo Haggerty, former Coach Scout, and now media member of Nine Sports Productions, reuniting with one of his old buddies, Ozzy the Sports Junkie. And of course, your phone calls, where interaction is what we want. Again, it's a personal phone line. After we end the show, it's over with. Of course, I want you to do 3 things for me on this Tuesday morning. And it's very important. You ready? Bring your passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake. Have a great night. You're now in the Sports Web, a sports talk show for the hardcore fan. Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense.
At Life's a Beach Realty, we're all about life on the beach. Stunning Panama City Beach and one of the most beautiful properties on the Gulf Coast, Shores of Panama. Radiant, elegant, and spectacular. Steps away from white sugar sand. Every room overlooks the turquoise of the Gulf of Mexico. Come in for your tour today. Life's a Beach Realty is your gateway to Shores of Panama, the shores, and a whole lot more.
Come to Sam Ash for hundreds of exclusive holiday deals on music and sound gear from the most iconic brands. Save big on professional and starter guitars, drums, digital pianos, horns, violins, DJ, and electronic production equipment. Supercharge your home studio with deals on podcasting, streaming, and AV equipment like speakers, microphones, headphones, and acoustic treatment. Plus, with 36 months no interest financing on thousands of items, you can get the gear of your dreams right now. From our incredible selection and service to our lowest price guarantee for over 95 years, real musicians know you only go to Sam Ash.
Who's the safety?
Tom Brady, welcome to Tampa. Go Bucs!
Realizing my potential has been what my career has been all about. Things that I've dreamed about have actually come true.
And the Patriots have won Super Bowl 36. Unbelievable.
Things have happened in my life as I kind of hoped they would happen. It's been, just a complete evolution. You know, how I just kept kind of fighting and clawing to continue to power forward. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you keep trying to make progress. So when I look at over 20 years, I look how far I've come. But there's not one step that I took where I realized, look how far I've come. But those series of steps that I put together, I go, wow, that's quite a journey.
My dad had a heart attack at 56 years old. He passed away at 63, and his main problem was high cholesterol. That was the main problem. And I've thought about that. I'd try anything to lower my cholesterol, to stop the chances of having a heart attack.
When I retired, I really had to be conscious about what I put into my body. Interestingly, I was also told I should probably take a statin. And I've always resisted medication like that because it feels unnatural to me. And so when I heard about this product that can naturally lower my cholesterol, lower my risk of heart disease and other types of conditions that come from having high cholesterol, I jumped on it. Has a lot of fiber in this, so it keeps you regular. It makes you feel good. And actually, interesting, it tastes good. You know, sometimes you see these things and you wonder what it's going to taste like. This one actually tastes really good. In fact, my kids even like have.
Here's a sobering reminder. Heart disease is the #1 cause of death for men and women. No wonder staying heart healthy is so very important these days. And we're learning that a few healthy choices can help prevent heart disease. Enter the inventor of Gatorade, Dr. J. Robert Cade. No secret what Cade and Gatorade did for thirst and performance. And Dr. Cade's Cholesterade is so much more than a thirst quencher. Cholesterade is a refreshing, high-fiber natural drink that could dramatically lower cholesterol and reduce the risk of heart disease. In fact, Cholesterade has twice the fiber of any other product on the market today. Independent studies show that 2 daily servings of Cholesterade can stunningly lower bad cholesterol by up to 20%. Dr. Cade knew firsthand the troubles of high cholesterol and adverse side effects of cholesterol-lowering prescription medications, also known as statins. Dr. Cade knew that a daily increase in fiber could lower the levels of cholesterol, so Dr. Cade invented Cholesterade as much for himself as anybody. Cholesterade is a powder that is mixed with water or juice. Cholesterade is all natural, no preservatives, gluten-free, and probiotic with natural flavors. Studies have shown lower cholesterol numbers without the use of prescription medication. Cholesterade helps all people looking to add fiber to their diet. Cholesterade, combined with a healthy diet and exercise, can help you get your cholesterol under control. Entertainer Rod Adams personally knows the benefits of Cholesterade.
Hey, my name is Ron Adams. You may know me as an entertainer from maybe one of my shows, like my Elvis show. But I'm also a 55-year-old guy that needs to stay in shape. I realized that my cholesterol was getting way out of hand. I went to the doctor and he said, you need to do something. But there wasn't anything to do other than maybe get on a statin, which I already knew was dangerous. And then I found out about cholesterol. Started taking it 3 times a day. 8 weeks later, my cholesterol dropped dramatically from over 300 to under 200. The good cholesterol went from 18 to 36. Cholesterol is what's keeping me healthy.
Independent studies have shown that cholesterol users have seen their bad cholesterol drop by more than 21%. Triglycerides drop by some 50%. And good cholesterol improve by nearly 13%. Cholesterol supports digestive health. It has 3 great tasting flavors and has become the future in the fight for lowering bad cholesterol. You can find Cholesterol by ordering at www.cholesterol.com. You can find it on Amazon and at major retailers nationwide.